shadows that set the dark spots of laughter fire up the night, bringing clarity when they blur the fight. Cut through the chaos, yeah, the tangled lies. Steampunk Kelly with the set of clear eyes. Truths and jokes gonna rock this show. Step into light where the real facts glow.
Hello. Welcome to the Punch. I might have to restart this. I don't know if something's okay. We're good. We're good. For a second there, it looked like something was going on with the YouTube thing. It wasn't quite syncing up the way it's supposed to, but we're good now. All right. So let me come back over here. I just need to share this with Blue Sky for a second, and then we'll be ready to go. Sorry, there was a little hitch on the YouTube end of things today. All right. All right. So, if anybody is there, how was your weekend? I'm betting, however it was better than Lindsey Graham's, because Lindsey really put the end in weekend, if you know what I mean. So anyway, in case you haven't heard, he died. And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about this whole FBI investigation into Kash Patel. But mostly, I just want to talk. I feel like I started to have some realization last week of where I really want to go with this show, and I'm wondering if it's even possible anymore. I have talked to between Twitter and this channel and Facebook. I'm not exaggerating when I say extremely conservatively. I've probably tried to have conversations with well over 10,000 MAGAs. When I say it's extremely conservative, like the actual ballpark is like more like 100,000. I have tried and I have tried and I have tried. And out of all of it, I've maybe had a couple of actual conversations that are, like good faith, honest conversations. And I want to talk about why that is, whether it's even worth trying. And what does a actual good faith conversation even mean? Like, how can we have that? How can we have that with people that don't want to have one? Hi, Harry. Hi, Sugar. How you doing? Sugar's weekend was fine. Also, for the title, don't even bother. Most MAGAs today don't listen to any agenda that's not theirs, and I think that's it. But I wonder if that's part of the problem I know it sounds circuitous, but is that part of the programming that makes them that way? And how can I, if we want to try and engage with them, how can we pull them out of the programming and get them to think? In War Games, that old movie War Games, and he got the computer to play tic-tac-toe and find out it's impossible to win, and so he kind of pulled it out of its programming in a way to teach it something new, to make it realize something new. So is that possible? Is there a way to get MAGA out of its programming? Because it seems like there's so many. Every conversation is either butt Biden, open borders, or transgender. You could just talk about, the Knicks are gonna win the NBA championship this year. Oh, but Biden, everything ends up having they can't just talk about a thing. They have to what's a woman? as though we are confused about the difference between a penis and a vagina. Like that's the issue. The issue isn't that some people actually don't have their brains connected with their genitals the same way you do, and so it's possible for somebody else's mind to operate and function differently because their chromosomes are different than yours. So we'll talk about that in a bit, but first I wanted to just talk about the Lindsey Graham dying. And there's kind of this I hate it when bad people die and then people need to like make them seem less bad because they're like, I don't want to talk ill of the dead. Well, if the dead, like if you were going to speak ill of them yesterday when they were alive and now you're not going to speak ill of them just because they died, dying didn't make Lindsey Graham a better person. And here's my thought on Lindsey Graham. You can agree with it, you can disagree with it. He seems like, at least with his coworkers, he was an affable guy that was easy to get along with most of the time. And he used to work, you know, he was kind of like one of these centrist types. Him and Joe Manchin and John McCain, not Joe Manchin, the guy, can't think of it. Anyway, another one of those centrist Democrats. Anyway, he could work across party lines, and you know, so people like Amy Klobuchar would say that, you know, like they went around with him on these tours and got some stuff done, and so they'll say positive things about him. But here's the thing about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, and I went and I pulled up, I've got some footage to share with you. It's about 5 minutes. I don't normally stream something else while I'm streaming, but I feel like this is so important because this shows a lot about Lindsey Graham. And actually, this speech right here is probably his best moment. I'm fairly certain by the way he's talking and what he's saying that, you know, he might have been he might have had a bottle of whiskey stored in a filing cabinet somewhere, and he might have been nipping on it on January 6th, 2021. But I'm going to share with you this speech and why he voted the way he voted on whether or not to give Joe Biden the election. So hang on, I'm gonna just share my screen, and we're gonna watch this. It's gonna take a few minutes. Let me see if I can. Okay. Is there I'm trying to, sorry, I'm not sure how to do this on the vertical. Okay. Yeah. You know, sometimes I wish I had a producer who knew what the hell they were doing. All right. Well, we're just going to have to do this. I'm sorry if you're watching on the vertical and it's going to be a little off center for you, but oh well. There's a way to, well, what is this? No, that's some Polymarket thing. I'm sorry. All right, here we go.
1976, South Carolina, Louisiana, and Florida sent two slate of electors. They had two governments, by the way, and we didn't know what to do. Why did South Carolina, Florida, and Louisiana do it? To hold the country hostage to end Reconstruction. It worked. The commission was 8-7. It didn't work. Nobody accepted it. The way it ended is when Hayes did a deal With these 3 states, you give me the electors, I'll kick the Union Army out. The rest is history. It led to Jim Crow. If you're looking for historical guidance, this is not the one to pick. If you're looking for a way to convince people there was no fraud, having a commission chosen by Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, and John Roberts is not going to get you to where you want to go. It ain't going to work. So it's not going to do any good. It's going to delay, and it gives credibility to a dark chapter of our history. That's why I'm not with you. But I will fight to my death for you. You're able to object. You're not doing anything wrong. Other people have objected. I just think it's a uniquely bad idea to delay this election. Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it to end this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful. But when the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that they didn't violate the Constitution of Wisconsin, I agree with the 3, but I accept the 4. If Al Gore can accept 5-4, he's not president. I can accept Wisconsin 4-3. Pennsylvania, it went to the Second Circuit. So much for all the judges being in Trump's pocket. They said, no, you're wrong. I accept the Pennsylvania Second Circuit that Trump's lawsuit wasn't right. Georgia, they said the Secretary of State took the law in his own hands. He changed the election laws unlawfully. A federal judge said, no, I accept the federal judge even though I don't agree with it. Fraud. They said there's 66,000 people in Georgia under 18 voted. How many people believe that? I asked, give me 10. I hadn't had one. They said 8,000 felons in prison in Arizona voted. Give me 10. I hadn't gotten one. Does that say there's problems in every election? I don't buy this. Enough's enough. We got to end it. Vice President Pence, what they're asking you to do, you won't do because you can't. You talk about interesting times. I associate myself with Rand Paul. How many times will you hear that? The mob has done something nobody else could do to get me and Rand to agree. Rand is right. If you're a conservative, this is the most offensive concept in the world, that a single person could disenfranchise 155 million people. The President of the Senate shall, in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives, open all certificates, and the votes shall then be counted. The person having the greatest number of votes for president shall be president. Where in there does it say Mike can say, I don't like the results, I want to send them back to the states? I believe there was fraud. To the conservatives who believe in the Constitution, now's your chance to stand up and be counted. Originalism, count me in. It means what it says. So, Mike, Mr. Vice President, just hang in there. They said we can count on Mike. All of us can count on the Vice President. You're going to do the right thing. You're going to do the constitutional thing. You got a son who flies F-35s. You got a son-in-law who flies F-18s. They're out there flying so that we can get it right here. There are people dying, to my good friend from Illinois, to make sure we have a chance to argue among ourselves. And when it's over, it is over. It is over. The final thing, Joe Biden. I've traveled the world with Joe. I hoped he lost. I prayed he would lose. He won. He's the legitimate president of the United States. I cannot convince people, certain groups, by my words, but I will tell you by my actions that maybe I, above all others in this body, need to say this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are lawfully elected and will become the president and the vice president of the United States on January the 20th.
Thank you, Senator Coons.
Thank you, Chairman Grassley, and to each of you and your families, congratulations.
Okay. Just a second while I figure out how to do this stupid thing. All right. Okay, so that happened first, which I really appreciate that on January 6th. This is the best thing I can say about Lindsey Graham. On January 6th, it might have taken some whiskey courage, but he did the right thing and he spoke the truth. Joe Biden won, and I like what he said about if Al Gore can take 5-4, then he can take 4-3. And Joe Biden won that election. The whole thing was just nonsense about it being rigged and stolen. And in that moment, he showed courage to stand up for what was right and do what was right. Then this happened. And this is just as important as, oh goodness, how do I am not good at okay, here, this, no, this, trying to, all right. Where is, I'm sorry. I feel like such an amateur. Okay. All right. No, that's not it. How do I get out of this? All right, share screen. I'm going to read some comments real quick. Should we get another stimulus check, $1,500 to $3,000? It's been around 5 years since our last one. No, there isn't. MAGA has been. Oh, wait, here, let me try this. All right, sorry. I shared my screen and I can't figure out how to. Oh, here, what if I do that? Nope. This? Nope. Goodness gracious. All right. Well, I had another thing to share, but oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try this. All right, here. Now let's look at this.
You traitor! You traitor! You traitor! You're a traitor! Lindsey Graham, you are a traitor to the country! You know it was rigged! You know it was rigged! You know it was rigged! You garbage human being! It's gonna be like this forever, wherever you go for the rest of your life! Audit the vote! Audit the vote! Audit the vote! Audit the vote!
So that's good enough for that. Cool. All right. Oh, now I need to figure out how to get rid of this thing. Here, let's. All right. So now we're back. Okay, and then let's do this. No. All right. Okay, now I am really stuck. Sorry. How do I get out of that? How do I close that? Oh, here. There we go. All right, and then now how do I get out of the? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, and then we go to chat, and there we go. So, yay, Kelly, you figured something out. I'm sorry for all the confusion, guys. I am amateur hour up in here, but I can get better. Anyway, Joe Biden won the election. Lindsey Graham voted on January 6th to say Joe Biden won the election, and then he got his soul just stolen right from his body in an airport, and he just went total chicken poop and never showed his spine again. It's probably somewhere in John McCain's grave. But he did have that one moment of liquid courage, and I give him credit for that. And I don't give him credit for anything that came after that, including him being a warmonger. He stood right there and applauded as genocide was carried out in Gaza. And in the initial days after the attack from Hamas, I can understand why you would say they need to go out and get Hamas. But it's gone way past that, right? 2,000 Jews were killed on October 7th. That's terrible. That's tragic. Full stop. There's not a but following that. That was terrible. There is an addendum, not a but. After that, Israel used that as an excuse to murder for over, I think probably now over 50,000, 60,000, 70,000 Palestinians, maybe over 100,000, and unhome 3 million Palestinians. And literally just trying to drive them into the ocean or something. And Lindsey Graham just cheered that on all along. And I'd like to remind you that more than half of those people are children. They're not people that carried out the attacks Hamas did. And they did. That's not counting the ones that are starving to death, not getting their health care. And also, let's not forget that on October 7th, that action happened. But before October 7th, there wasn't love and peace between the two peoples. Did you know that the year prior to October 7th was the largest year for fatalities in Gaza? Like, there was already violence going on. And we don't need to get in who started it, because that goes back and forth for 150 years. What Israel is doing on the scale it's doing is genocide. And Lindsey Graham was a genocide apologist. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he was a great man and did a great, job. He was kind of, I think this whole thing before he had his soul stolen from him in an airport, and after, is actually kind of, he was a chameleon. He had no real convictions other than maybe war is, like he liked war. But other than that, he didn't have any real convictions. He just, that's why he could compromise, because he was always compromised. I'm not going to pretend he was a better person than he was just because he died. Okay, so there's that. That's the serious part of it. The other part of it is, the Grim Reaper was coming for Mitch McConnell. And Lindsey Graham jumped in the way. He said, if you want to get to me, get to him, you got to go through me first. So the Grim Reaper is like, wow. You've got some of the weirdest, this has been such a great weekend for conspiracy theorists on both sides, because you have the conspiracy theorists that want to tell you that Mitch McConnell is like, there's that, he's the picture of him that looks a little AI-ish in some ways to some people. And so some people are saying that, that's a fake thing. You've got the conspiracy theorists that are saying that Lindsey Graham actually died of COVID because he got a shot 5 years ago. And then you've got the conspiracy theorists that are saying that it has something to do with Hillary Clinton. I don't know how they got down this road. But you even have people that are like blaming it on like the 322nd victim of Hillary or whatever. They're so weird. Anyway. That's my thoughts on Lindsey Graham. I'll go through some comments. Dead by Iskander. I don't know what Iskander is. Many of us conservative Republicans agreed no fraud, along with Graham at the time. I think so. I think that, and they've just kept doing it. I don't know if more Republicans actually believe now or not, but this is not an actual thing that is an objectively, like debatable thing. And that goes into the whole larger topic I wanted to talk about today, which is it even possible to talk to MAGAs anymore when they're like, they think that, do you really think Joe Biden got 81 million votes? Like they think that that's an argument. Yes, I think Joe Biden got 81 million votes. Do you really think that somehow that the magical mystery I don't know what it was, rainbow farting unicorns or leprechauns, or leprechauns riding unicorns that fart rainbows, they like came in and secretly somehow managed to add 8 million votes? That they didn't hear the cases on the merits. Well, the cases didn't have any merits. And yes, the judges did look at the merits. They just didn't always rule on the merits, because to rule on the merits would mean that they had to have standing. So rather, they ruled against them on standing and then also addressed the merits. Have you read any of these cases? I mean, some of them, and by the way, when you say, well, they just dismissed it on standing. Well, that's because standing matters. Anyway, it's just insane to think that Joe Biden didn't win the 2021 election, or the 2020 election. He won that election. That is not an abstract thing that we can debate. Like, for those votes, all were like by people that cast ballots. And how do you talk to people like that just like are willing to accept made up stuff while they dismiss objective reality? Is it possible? Visionary says, hello Visionary. What do you think will run America in the future, Islam or China? Neither. Just tell the sheeple a bat fell into soup. Is that why they have to close their doors? Yes. The sheeple, the people like that actually know what they're talking about. No, nobody is saying that a bat fell into soup. What people are saying, the people that are the experts, the people that know more than you, or more than the YouTube video you watched of somebody that's like some sort of self-proclaimed expert selling you some kind of protein powder or Nutri-supplements or whatever. Yeah, the experts are the ones that aren't worth believing. But I'm a infidel on YouTube is somehow an immunologist who knows all about how COVID viruses mutate. Yeah, go on. Tell me what your PhD is in. I'm an infidel. Do you even know how to spell PhD? Is that Lindsey Graham? Yes, that was Lindsey Graham. Hey, Harry. Oh, sorry. Got to go. Bye. Well, it was nice. I wish we could have talked. Oh, well. Another vax. Oh, a vax person. Yes, a vax person. Oh, you got me there. That's a zinger. I'm an infidel. Why would his eyes... I've been saying this whole time. Both sides are wrong in the IP conflict. What is the IP conflict? Oh, the Israeli-Palestine. Yeah, I think what I have been saying all along is both sides have done wrong and both sides have been wronged. If you go back 150 years, like I actually finally, I'm 59 next month. I'll be 59 in 3 weeks. And I only until until recently, until this all started, I was like just figuring, oh, well, this is just an old religious war going back. And so I finally went and did some research on it and found some things and learned some things. And you know what? It's actually has nothing to do with religion, the sources. What it has to do with is Israel started buying land in the 1850s that was being sold to them by people that didn't really own it. Like maybe they technically owned it, but the people that had been on it and working with it for like generations, going back like 500 years, the people who, like didn't register it had it stolen from them by Turkish oligarchs. And then those oligarchs sold it to Jews. So Jews bought land from people that didn't own it. And that was the beginning of it. So you had like 50 years of Jewish people moving in, buying this land and moving in and displacing Palestinians who didn't like being displaced and who never sold their land and whose livelihood was being lost. And then that started some issues. Then in World War I, England told the Palestinians, hey, if you join us in World War I and fight off the Ottomans, which, by the way, the Palestinians weren't too happy with the Ottomans right at that point in time because they were being pushed off their land because they were selling it to the Jews. And so then that, became worse and worse. And at the same time in the Balfour Agreement, the British made the same deal with the Jews saying, if you finance our war, then we'll give you the land. And then they didn't give either one the land. And so then both the Palestinians and the Jews were sitting there trying to figure out whose land was whose, and neither one was getting the land that they were promised. And so then England said, you know what? We need to have a two-state solution. And then World War II started, and then, Hitler went all Holocaust on the Jews, which, by the way, he wasn't the first one to go, persecuting Jews. It was like a 15-year, 100-year hobby of Europeans. It was actually safer for Jews to live in Palestine, for most of that previous millennia than it was for them to live in Europe. And that's why they didn't want to live in Europe anymore, because they got tired of getting blamed for everything and getting killed all the time. So then that's why they were moving back to the homeland. It's complicated, and most people don't really actually want to know what the history is or bother to look into it, but that's what the history is. And then you had Palestine. So then Israel was awarded this land, and then you had this the Nakba. You had the Nakba, which is basically Palestine's like, wait, we don't want, we never agreed to give up our land. And so then they fought back, and then that was called a rebellion or something. And so then there was this Nakba where they basically drove Palestinians out of Jerusalem, or out of, drove them out to the West Bank and everything. And then they'd start taking over the West Bank. They've gradually been pushing Palestinians out to the veritable ocean. And they've been pinned up in this Gaza Strip for like 30, 40 years now. Well, I guess more like 60 years, like after the 7-Day War. So anyway, didn't mean to go on this diatribe. But the people of Palestine have also been wronged. And saying all of that doesn't vindicate all the terrorism from Hamas or Iran doing the evil things they do. It just doesn't vindicate killing. The fact they do those evil things doesn't vindicate killing Palestinian children either. Okay, so here we got a lot of comments. All right. Boy. All right. So I don't think I can find the beginning. All right. We have a lot of comments. So I'm just going to randomly pick on one. In the UK, and Trump literally means fart. That's kind of funny. Trump is winning now. Is he? President Trump is like, I'd like to hear what makes you think he's winning. What defines winning? What is he winning? How is he winning? He's president, that's for sure. No, I'm not denying that, but what is winning to you? Regardless of him cheating to win, he destroyed the country. He didn't cheat to win, and he didn't destroy the country. I mean, this is what I mean when I say you can't talk to MAGA. They just say things. They don't think about the things they're saying. They don't have to mean anything. They're just unqualified nonsense. They're the same kind of stupid ramblings of the pudding-brained, hate monger that is Trump. Oh, somebody coming in and talking about the 401k is booming. Yeah. I didn't know that. I mean, if you have a 401k, it's probably doing pretty well. The stock market is doing well. 93% of the people don't have 401ks. So you're just saying, well, I'm doing well. You can go fornicate yourself, rest of the country. Ha, 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 ha. Do you know what a K-shaped economy is, Kent? Hi, sir. How are you? I'm doing okay. Just don't say anything then. And sometimes, I have a lot of people that, say, why are you even trying to engage? And sometimes I wonder why I'm trying to engage. Like I have, I have like between Blue Sky and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and everything, I've got over 250,000, closing in on 300,000 followers. And I get a lot of engagement from both sides. I get about 1 million replies a year on Twitter. These streams end up with about 500 or so comments a day. I try to engage with every person, whether they agree with me or not. I try and engage with them honestly, but it is so rare to have a MAGA try and honestly engage with me. They use talking points. They use and not even talking. I don't even like talking points implies there's thought behind it. It's like you say, Trump started the war with Iran, and they're like, what is a woman? It wasn't a cool on the people what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying. Cool in the gang has something to do with this? I don't know. Your side calls me MAGA, so what would you like to discuss? My side doesn't call you MAGA. You guys call yourselves MAGA. I mean, it's like you walked around calling yourselves MAGA, wearing the hat, and now all of a sudden you want to act like it's a pejorative. I will call you whatever you want, Trump supporters. I don't want to call you Republicans because calling you Republicans implies that everybody who is a Republican is of your perspective. I call MAGA because that is the way that you have chosen to self-identify. Biden didn't win. God allowed him to become president. No, Biden won. Biden won, period. Just get over that. Like, stop saying stupid things. Repeating them until you believe them doesn't make you less stupid. It doesn't make them more true. Love President Trump. Virus came from China. See, this is what I mean. What the hell does that have to do with what we're talking about? It's just throwing out nonsensical terms. Yes, we know that the COVID virus originated in China. So what? It's like MAGA can't have a thoughtful discussion about anything because the virus came from China. What is the point of that sentence? Why go through the trouble of saying something just so belligerently stupid? The left is so far gone. And it's the left that's so far gone. It's the left. Like the people that identify with objective reality that are so far gone. We're so far gone. How? In what way? Follow through on the thought, Cheese. Follow through on the thought. Tell me, how are we gone? Because we believe that the election in 2020, the most investigated, studied election in world history, and nothing of value has come up. Everything that has come up only proves again and again that Biden won. Arizona went and they hired the most pro, stolen private group that they could find. And they found out that Biden actually won Arizona by more votes than they originally thought. Where are we far gone? Dude, you think that the left is so far gone because you are so far removed from objective reality. You think that objective reality is gone. Hi, bro. I am from India, YouTuber. Mohammed Jonas. I don't know. Hi, Mohammed. Didn't Joe help make this jab-saving virus? No. Joe did not help making... I don't know what a jab-saving virus is. What I do know is that the person who came up with Operation Warp Speed is Donald Trump. It's the one thing I give him credit for. The COVID virus is real. There is no credible evidence that it was engineered. There are some people that think there is a possibility that it could have been. But even the people that say that the likelihood is still not that it was engineered. This whole idea of it leaking from a biolab and stuff is just nutty conspiracy theory. There isn't evidence that happened. Like, this is what I mean. You cannot talk to MAGAs. They can't engage in objective reality. Like, do you really think that Joe Biden, on the one hand, like somehow created the virus in China while Donald Trump was president? Like, as a private citizen, Joe Biden invented this virus in China, then leaked it to the whole world, killing millions of people just to make Trump look bad, knowing that somehow he could sabotage Trump's reaction so that the U.S. would have the worst response of any country in the world to COVID, just going into full-on denial that that Donald Trump would sit there and talk about eating fish food and drinking bleach to make you better. And that would somehow make it seem like Joe Biden won the election when he didn't really win the election. And then when he won the election, he would, he got, I don't know how he did it. He got Donald Trump to hold this rally. And then after the rally, when Donald Trump said peacefully, they went and they attacked Congress. 150 police officers were injured. And Donald Trump watched the whole thing on TV, rewinding his favorite parts. But somehow that was Joe Biden's like plot. And then he was smart enough to figure out how to mastermind all of this, manipulating like entire nations and Donald Trump. And then after all of that, he was too incompetent to leave his own basement. You people are nuts. Hello, gotta go. What's going on with, oh, this guy seems like the typical unstable lefty. Yeah, I'm unstable. It's not like there's 1,000 videos proving they cheated in Los Angeles. There's not like 1,000 videos proving they cheated in Los Angeles. It's exactly like there's not 1,000 videos. There's not any videos proving that anybody cheated in Los Angeles. There is one video showing that one person was paying people to register to vote. Not partisan at all, just somebody breaking the law and getting arrested for it. Who is living there? No one. Who is living where? Are Democrats going to vote for communists now? Do you even know what communism is? There are no communists on the ballot. There's no communists in the Democratic Party. There are democratic socialists. Democratic socialists are not communists. Love won. Oh, you again. Love did not win. Love doesn't murder people on the streets and then declare love. Palestinian did own any land. Are you saying Palestinians didn't own any land? That's just historically inaccurate. This guy is off on his history. No, I've actually studied it quite extensively. Saying I'm off on my history does not change actual objective reality. Yes, we conservative Republicans also, we disgusted that Trump tried to undermine the elections in 2020 by using fake electors. 84 to be exact. Thank you, John. And that's why I won't call MAGAs Republicans, because there are Republicans who aren't MAGAs. Israel was incredibly gracious to the Pakistan. What does Pakistan have to do with this? I'll say again, as someone who is labeled MAGA by the left, what would you like to discuss? We'll get to Snipe. I'll tell you this, okay? I would like to discuss anything, but these are the things that I would just love to be able to discuss with the MAGA. Take any issue you want that is a forward-thinking issue, like not but Biden and did Biden have open borders and that kind of nonsense, but just like, let's say that there are certain things that we know are issues, right? Like, we know that we have problems with immigration. Everybody agrees with that. Like, I think that a good goal would be that our immigration laws are the best thing for our economic future, but also don't negate our founding principle that all men are created equal. Like, I think that would be a good starting point for the conversation. For election integrity, I think that only American citizens should be allowed to vote, but I think that every American citizen should be allowed to vote. Do you agree with that? Like, let's find a topic and a common ground. Like, this is what I would like to reach for. And then we can talk about how that can happen, rather than taking things and then just beating each other with talking points. I would like to take an issue and talk about how we can solve that issue. That's what I mean by an honest, good faith, forward-thinking, productive conversation. Would you like to have one of those? Would you like to be like the third person, the third MAGA that I've been able to have one of those with? Palestinians were working in Israel, not allowed now. God bless Israel. How do you, anyway? See, and this is what I mean. They just say things. God, why, Regina? Wrong live stream for me. Didn't God say they would return home? Well, I don't know. Who's God? Which God are you referring to? If you're referring to the biblical God, then let the biblical God work it out. He doesn't need Donald Trump's help. It's legal for children as young as 9 to get married in Palestine. I have no idea if that's true or not. I know for sure it's not relevant here. It's like you've got Republican states where it's legal, like where it's legal to marry somebody that's 12. So maybe just sit down on this one, Booney. The West, including me, is the war machine. That's the only way we can live our way. The United States has basically, I was thinking about this and even just kind of looked it up, depending on how you define war. Right. But I think the longest we've gone without like a major military conflict somewhere, and since like the 1900, it's like 4 years or 7 years. There was like a period after Vietnam from like 1975 to 1982. without any major military conflicts. MAGA is worth talking to, the left-wing lunatics aren't worth talking to. Okay. What is a left-wing lunatic? What makes a left-wing, whatever that is, what makes someone left-wing and what makes them a lunatic? Like, let's talk about that. I'm talking about real things, right? Is acknowledging reality, does that make you a lunatic? Does just dismissing objectively true things, does that make you a lunatic? Who's the lunatic? The people willing to engage with the reality or the people who reject reality? Because I'm just, maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm unique. Maybe you're so under your bubble that you don't see it anymore. But MAGAs are the ones that reject objective reality over and over again. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something forward thinking. I want to talk about something productive. How can we solve? Just pick the problem and tell me how to solve it. Tell me what the problem is. Not in some sort of divisive way, but in a way that we can all agree. We can all say, yes, I think that's a common goal. Like, why is that so hard to do? Why can't we just say, I think only Americans should be able to vote, but every American should be able to vote? Doesn't that seem like nice, clean goal that we could all get behind? Palestinians never owned. Regina, that's just nonsense. They did. The U.S. even said so. The Palestinians learned the hard way not to mess with Israel. Yeah. Okay, Regina, you're just kind of an asshole. Sorry. Why is Gomorrah? Because they protected pedophiles. If you actually read the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, did you know that that's the actual real sin of Sodom and Gomorrah? They protected pedophiles. Go look at the story. So you want to talk about who Sodom and Gomorrah is? Donald Trump. He's the one that's protecting pedophiles. So you can sit down. Trump is winning his place in hell. And Lindsey Graham and Charlie Kirk and Rush Limbaugh and Henry Kissinger are sitting there. They have a drink at the table and they've got an empty seat waiting for Donald Trump. And you know who's not there? Mitch McConnell. You know who's not there? Ruth Bader Ginsburg. TDS, yes, Regina. You think like TDS? This is what I mean. They're just silly. I don't even want to say stupid because that gives them too much credit. They're just silly. They can't be taken seriously. They're little children just yammering and yammering and yammering. There's no such thing as Obamacare, but yes, the Affordable Care Act is incredibly popular, which is why the Republicans can't seem to figure out how to get rid of it because they know they'll be voted out of office. Obamacare has nothing to do with the current affairs. And here's another thing. I will say there's the issues, right, with our Medicare or with our health care. What are the issues? How can we solve it? Why can't we talk about how to make things better instead of just blaming the other side for how bad things are? That's what I mean when I say I want to have a productive conversation. I have never heard a MAGA talk about how we can make the healthcare system better, other than this recent nonsense about the junk insurance. Everybody that actually understands how the healthcare system works and understands that is going to create what we call death spirals. And I'm not talking about liberals or whatever that think that. I'm talking about like actual people that do healthcare administration for a living. Like I talked to a guy that was the former CEO of BAMC, the largest military hospital in the country. And I've already told you, Snippy, I'm behind in the comments, so I don't get to your comments. I try to go through them in a row because I don't want to skip anybody's. I hope that you're still here and that you have responded. Murder is not justified in any way, shape, or form. Dude is crashing out. See this? So then it comes to the insults. You get the just the crazy talk, right? That's like, oh, Joe Biden didn't win the election. Just the reality denial. And then once you trim out the like once you answer those things, then it's just TDS and insults. Like, why can't you engage in a good faith conversation, Phantom? Denmark wants to know when your intelligence expiry date occurred. You're making statements of no factually correct content. You are a legend in your own mind. So then you get these kind of statements like, okay, first of all, who Denmark is. I don't know what you're talking about with Denmark. And then they say, oh, you're making like he doesn't know his history, or nothing he's saying is true. They'll never actually identify something that I said that's not true, because they know what I am saying is true. So they just do this kind of vague, abstract thing. I don't know if Patrick has ever been to Denmark. I don't know why he's invoking Denmark here. I know that there are plenty of Danish people that have been, viewed the show before that agree with me. So you do not speak for Denmark. Denmark definitely does not back what you are saying. You don't get to say what Denmark thinks. Obama sucks, literally. So now this just, Regina, we're going to just have to do away with. And there it is. I've never called myself MAGA once, and I'm trying to engage. You want to do it? But I have tried, Snippy. And I've already said, I'm not saying you called yourself MAGA. I'm not saying you personally. I am saying the MAGA movement was created by MAGA. Like the MAGA movement, people wear hats on their head saying, make America great again. They are self-identified as MAGA. And whatever you want to call yourself is fine. I don't care. That's not the point. And I've told you several times what I mean by productive conversation. I get this a lot too. Is like these let's pretend to have a real conversation, but they won't actually have one. I'm here, I'm ready to have one, but then they never do. So again, I will tell you, Snipey, what I mean by a real conversation. I just mean a conversation that's forward thinking and not backwards blaming, that actually talks about a real issue we have today and how to resolve that. Hi, Kitty. How you doing? Trump is a boss. Trump third term. MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Only fools would like Trump. I don't even know if it's like, I don't even want to call them fools. I maybe the word is not fool so much as fooleds, FOOLEDS, because they're just so fooled. Biden and Hunter lost their cocaine in the White House. All right. All right. She's on timeout. It's all lies. There was no virus from China. Where did the virus come from? Are you saying there's no such thing as COVID? This is what I mean. Like, you can't engage with people that think that say things like that. There's no starting point for a conversation. There's no way to resolve that. It's just a stupid thing to say. Okay, Trump may be the best president ever. Abraham Lincoln stopped slavery. Tell me what Donald Trump has done better than stop slavery. Go on. Tell me what he did that's better than stopping slavery. MAGA is an insular cult. MAGA. Oh, thank goodness Brett is here. Brett and Kitty, if you guys could do your magic. Brett and Kitty are moderators. America has hit rock bottom, has hit tank bottom at Cushing, Oklahoma. The hub is functionally empty, leaving unusable sludge that damages equipment if pumped 0.19 million barrels. Oh, is this about the oil reserves? That's interesting. So we're out of oil reserves. They'll blame Biden. Make America. When was America great the first time, Bobby, or B-boy? When was it great? What does it mean to make America great again? Tell me. Tell me what great means. Like I have no problem with making America great. I would love for America to be great. Can we define what great is though? What is great? Because it seems to me like all that MAGA thinks great means is like just it makes liberals angry. Anything that makes liberals angry must be good to them. You know, even if it's taking away food from children, even if it's killing American citizens on the city streets, even if it's arresting journalists for like having a difference of opinion. Trump, third term, MAGA. Yeah, you're going on timeout. And you know, spamming, like I'm more than willing to have and read comments that I don't agree with, as you can see. But just spamming is just dumb. Don't. It's not just disrespectful to me. It's disrespectful to everybody on the channel. Grow up, Gary. MAGA, the idiot's choice. Again, I don't think that they have thought about it enough to actually be called idiots. Like when I think idiot, you know, like the more I think about this, like an idiot has tried to struggle with the logic and can't get it right. Like when I feel like an idiot, you know, sometimes I'll be reading, you know, these. I tend to when I'm trying to learn about something, I don't always just, you know, ask chat. I'll ask chat about, you know, like I was doing some research into, you know, the whole transgender thing. And then I would look not just at what chat said and go and I'd look at the actual studies that are done. And you really have to slow down and read some of these PhD reports. You know, like these clinical studies, they're over my head and I feel like an idiot. I'm trying to apprehend what they're saying about, talking about, but I don't always because I don't have a PhD. And so, but, you know, I eventually work my way through it. But to me, idiot means that you've tried to apprehend something and you can't because it's kind of over your head. MAGAs don't even try. They haven't thought enough about things to actually be idiots about it. The 250th event spending was fraud in broad daylight. So much. This is such a blatantly corrupt president and administration that it's laughable. I mean, he literally went from draining the swamp to actually creating a swamp. So Robert says Trump and MAGA suck. Trump won the popular vote, the electoral college vote, won every swing state. Yes. In 2024, in 2020, he didn't. What? So what? Nobody's saying he didn't. Only brain dead think Trump is a good president or a human. I mean, he literally was found by a jury beyond a preponderance of the evidence to have grabbed a woman in a dressing room, forced her against the wall, and jammed his fingers inside her vagina without permission, against her will. And some people look at that and say, well, he didn't rape her. Like, I mean, this is what I mean when I say they haven't even thought about it. They just spew whatever Fox told them to. Their brain is completely turned off. That's why they can't even be called idiots. They're not qualified to be idiots. To me, being an idiot means you've thought about it and can't understand it. It requires effort. To be an idiot takes effort. Trump won with the loud minority while the silent majority refused to vote for either. I think there's some credibility to that comment. Why the silent majority refused to vote for either is a conversation worth having. Your ideology is a lie. Your wild existence is hate. What is my ideology? And why is it a lie? Tell me what my ideology is, because I haven't said anything about what it is. I mean, unless, like I've said, that that our immigration laws should be the best things for our country's future and not compromise our founding principle that all men are created equal. Like, I'm not sure if that ideology is a lie or if you have an issue with it. I also said that I think that every American only Americans should be able to vote, but every American should be able to vote. I don't know if you think that's a lie, or, if you feel like, you want to engage on that, go ahead. Tell me why I'm wrong on that. But it's not a lie. It's how I believe. Artie Sukudo, you know what you're talking about. The silent majority is awake now. Karen says I'm wrong. She doesn't say what I'm wrong about. Trump, his admin, and MAGA. Oh, Robert says Trump, his admin, and MAGA traitors. Kata says keeping my best fireworks for the... Oh, or Keith. Sorry, you've got the three green letter people here, and then two of them are K. Keeping my best fireworks for the departure of the orange one. MAGA mistaking the silence of the majority as agreeance with their policy. And I would like to point out that Donald Trump, while he won the popular vote, he won it with the plurality of the vote. He didn't win it with the majority. And for those who do not know what the difference is between a plurality and a majority, plurality means you get the most votes without going over 50%. Majority means 50% plus one. Since 1988, the Republicans have only won the majority of the vote one time. Didn't they come out and say it was in a lab infection, the wet market? No, they did not come out and say that. They came out and they said that it was possible. But it was like a low probability. Like they moved it from no, it was impossible to no, it was possible, but it probably didn't happen. No, the general consensus is it was most likely a wet market, but there is some possibility that there was some kind of lab leak. But there's no lab, there's no evidence that there was a lab that it was leaked from. Socialist, leftists. So what is the difference between a socialist and a leftist? And what is that? Like, you just used a pejorative. That's like saying right-wing Nazi. Like, there's left-wing Nazis? Are there socialist rightists? Are there right-wing socialists? What's the deal? Like, why do you feel like you need to modify socialist with leftists or leftists with socialists? You don't even know what the words you're using mean. You just sit there and you use ideology as a pejorative without even understanding what the ideology is. By the way, Cajun, whatever you think of me, you would love my red beans and rice. I'm actually from Louisiana originally. I make red beans and rice that will make you cry. They're so good. Thanks. I'm here to clean. Thank you, Brett. Liberals are losing control of the Dem Party to a further left socialist movement. There is a rising socialist movement, a democratic socialist movement, by the way, in the Democratic Party. Why is that bad? What is socialism? What do you think that means? Because and like what's the issue with that? Why is it, like you guys can sit there and talk about socialism, but we can't talk about fascism when the Republican Party is being taken over by fascists? But if we say that, which is an objective fact, then we're like, the reason that Donald Trump is getting assassinated, not Donald Trump doing shit that pisses people off. Where was Biden in Gaza? Biden, what is that even? What is that talking about? I disagreed with Biden's policy on Gaza. But Biden's policy on Gaza was still better than Trump's. Like, at least Biden tried to negotiate peace, and actually did negotiate peace, and try to get food to Gaza. And he tried to have like a boat that would be able to bring in food and stuff like that. Biden's position on Gaza was insufficient, but it was still better than Trump's. COVID definitely did not come from the Wuhan coronavirus lab in China. Not possible. I never said it did. I don't know if you're talking to me. I mean, I'm delusional. I don't know what delusion I'm suffering from. Am I suffering from the delusion of not knowing what, like, what this is like? Just what are you saying? The door. This is why this show is called what it's called, because all you people do is just sit there and say stupid nonsense. And so it's not that, you can't win the argument. Bill Murray once said that it's hard to win an argument with a smart person, but it's damn near impossible to win one with a stupid person. You guys don't even engage on anything. You just sit there and yell TDS. I'm surprised nobody said what is a woman yet, or trans people. The Lord doesn't like his children being misguided. Whatever that means. Biden was a Zionist, so is Kamala, a massive reason for the Dem loss. Neither one is Zionist. I mean, depending on what you mean by, if you mean that they think that Israel has a right to exist as a nation, then they're Zionists. But usually when I think of Zionists, I'm thinking of like the religion, not the ethnicity. There's a difference. Mostly insane people troll and spew out the hate speech. I'm trying my best to catch up and make them invisible. Thank you, Brett. This was like, boy, they really came out in droves today. MAGA party is unstoppable and stronger than ever. America first, all day, every day. You people are nuts, say the guys screaming at a computer screen. Yeah. Because if you're like saying something with intensity, then that means you're insane. What a weirdo. You're weird, Snipey. I thought you were going to try and have a good faith conversation. You kept insisting on it, and then once I defined the terms of a good faith conversation, you go into insults. What did you want to have one or not, Snipey? Girls as young as 9 years old. We're still talking about this. Whatever that has to do with anything. It's the only what is the relevance to what we're talking about here? You're saying that because you, on your view, I have no idea if it's true or not. I doubt it is. But because girls are young as 9 years old are being forced to marry in Gaza, that it's okay to murder that same 9-year-old? What is your point? Like, this is to justify the genocide in Gaza? That Gaza, that Palestinian laws are different than ours? They did cheat in LA. No, they didn't cheat in LA. They didn't. I'm not going to argue that. They didn't. If you think that, like, this is like such a dumb argument. Democrats don't have to steal Los Angeles, dude. Have you ever been there? MAGA are clueless, useless fools. MAGA is eating itself. It's interesting. I was watching this Fox News clip, and Riley Gaines was talking about how Candace Owens is insane. And there's like Ben Shapiro apparently has some sort of thing going on. There's like different levels of womp womp that are all attacking each other. MAGA elected a 34 count felon, and like this is just a fact. They'll try and pretend like it doesn't matter that he's a 34-time felon. They'll pretend that it doesn't matter that he stole nuclear secrets. They'll pretend it doesn't matter that he tried to overthrow the country or that he didn't try to overthrow the country. They're reality deniers. All communists are socialists, but not all socialists are communists. Yeah, and what? Well, actually, there are different. Yes, I mean, depends on what you mean by socialist. There are some people that believe in what we call mixed capitalism. The DSA believes in mixed capitalism. The DSA does not believe that you shouldn't be able to own your own home or own your own car. They're for workers' rights. They're for certain things being socialized, like transportation and energy and healthcare. At least paying for healthcare. But you can't be both against any kind of private ownership and also for a wealth tax. A wealth tax and all public ownership are mutually exclusive because you can't have wealth if you can't own anything. So the very fact that they're for a wealth tax proves that they are not communists or socialists to the, nth degree. This is a lie. Communists are here. I've seen the brochures. LOL. Okay, I didn't say there are no communists here. I said there are no communists in the Democratic Party. There are fascists here. There's Nazis here. Does that make you a Nazi? There are people that literally call themselves Nazi. I'm not saying you're a Nazi. I'm saying there are people that call themselves Nazi. If a self-identified Nazi calls themselves a Nazi, does that make you a Nazi? I see the crazy train decided to stop in and pick on. Yeah, it's a nutty one, and and you notice not one honest point from a single one of these MAGAs. I say, I like between Twitter and Facebook and this channel and YouTube and the podcast and all that, I've had like 2 or 3 MAGAs that have ever made an actual attempt to have an honest conversation. We had the one dude up there, the snipey guy that was in there. I'm game, yeah, let's do it. And then I was like explained what I mean by an honest conversation, and he went straight into insults. Because he wasn't really trying to have one. I with you, to hell with the whole system. Yeah, so between Brett and Kitty, hopefully we can work some of this out. All right, I'm 30 minutes behind. If you think there's 2 parties in America, you're getting played. If you think that the 2 parties are the same, you're getting played. I couldn't care less about immigration. My Irish and Italian ancestors were immigrants. Feed the homeless to the hungry. Is that I suppose that's a joke, a cannibalism joke. Hang on, I need to stand up for a minute and take care. My cat is mad because he can't come in. So hang on. I just need to step up for just a minute. Kitty's gonna cat, and they're the boss. Okay, hang on, Huggy Bear. Come on. He didn't like being left out there on his own. He's a good cat. We had a crazy weekend, by the way. My AC went out. And who needs AC in the middle of Texas, in the middle of July, right? Like, what's the worst that can happen? So anyway, we went and a friend let us stay at her house overnight so that we didn't die of heat stroke. And Huggy Bear was just very confused, so he's still having some issues. Okay, so Spicy says legal immigration, I'm all for. Let's discuss why the left is against voter ID. Okay, so we're having two different conversations here. Okay. What do you mean by the left is against voter ID? I told you that this is where I stand on when you say legal immigration, I'm all for it. But what constitutes legal immigration? Because that's another issue. There are like 95% of the world is not have a chance to legally immigrate. And most of the people that your chances of being able to immigrate here legally are 90% better if you're white than if you're colored. And even then you get chain migration that they call that and stuff like that. But there's like 20, 30-year waits on some of those visas. We have problems with immigration where, you know, like businesses simply cannot afford to hire legal immigrants. And so that's why we're losing farms. So part of legal immigration is what makes things legal. The law, you say the law, but why is those laws have to be those laws? Can we improve those laws? When I talk about immigration reform, I'm talking about reforming the laws so that they're actually the best thing for our country. Unless you think that the current laws are the best things for our country, and we can discuss that. Instead of stupid semantic talking points about whether or not we have open borders or closed borders, which actually have to do with asylum, not immigration. And when it comes to election integrity, I have no problem with voter IDs. I think that it's interesting that as much as we argue about voter ID, the Congressional Budget Office has done 7 different studies on on voter ID, and they really don't make any difference either way. They don't keep people they don't prevent people from voting, and they don't enable people to vote. But I'm not talking about that. I don't think that voter ID has anything at all to do with election integrity. I'm not against it, but I am against laws that make it either hard or almost impossible for certain people to vote. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if those people are Democrats or Republicans or white or black or brown. I don't care if those people are men or women. I think that every American should be able to vote. And only Americans should be able to vote. We need to get a starting ground to our conversation, to have a conversation, Snipey. So what can we find a common objective and then figure out how to get there? Instead of why are you against this when I never said I was against that? You're making assumptions about what I think. How about you tell me what you think the goal is, and then we can discuss whether or not I agree with that's the goal. We can find a common goal, and then we can find how we get there. That is an honest conversation. I'm skipping timeouts and just going for shadow banning. It's easier and probably important right now. My ancestors are some of the early Americana outlaws we celebrate in history. My ancestors go way back. I've got ancestors that owned slaves. I've got ancestors that were slaves. I've got ancestors that fought on both sides of the Civil War. I have ancestors that fought in the Revolution. You know what? Doesn't matter. I'm me. My ancestors do not compose who I am. Trump's family profit in billions while the country struggles. He doesn't give a flying fook about anything else. Considering most adults are dead. Most adults aren't. What does that even mean? What do you mean most adults are dead? Most adults, I have no idea what that is supposed to mean. I'm liberal and I'm for voter ID. It should be relatively simple and free of charge for an ID, and we're good. By the way, the SAVE Act has absolutely nothing to do with voter ID. I think that the Senate put an amendment that actually says that you have to show ID. But the version that the House passed didn't even have voter ID in it. The SAVE Act isn't a voter ID bill. The SAVE Act is a bill to kill voter registration more than anything else, if you actually look at the bill. Donald donates his presidential salary on TV every quarter for his family sells homes. Yeah, the home he's selling is the White House. Get that? He's selling the White House. Palestine having been under systemic genocide by Israel. Yes, I agree with that. There is a level 4 biolab in Wuhan. I think it's possible, not for political reasons, but a leak. But there's no actual evidence. Like, that's just like, that doesn't mean that. And like I said, the experts say it is possible. And by that, they just mean they can't rule it out as a possibility. Not that there's any evidence that it happened. It doesn't. It's just word games for propaganda purposes. I'm not sure what that was about. I'm sorry. I get behind in the comments because I try to engage with every comment, because people get mad at me if I don't engage with their comment. And so then I get caught. So if you leave a comment that's like, try not to use like it, or, define what the context is. Geez, YouTube is taking care of most of these people. I'm just sitting here watching it happen. So this is the filtered version I'm getting. Hey, MAGA, here's a financial question for you. Are loans income? Yo, boomer. I'm not a boomer. Are loans taxable income? Loans are not taxed. I'm not a boomer. I'm like 3 years too young to be a boomer. Not that I care one way or the other. I'm Gen X. I don't know what somebody's generation has to do with this. I get annoyed when people say millennial or I hate generational stereotypes are just as dumb and stupid as racist stereotypes. I'm seeing about 100 of these. This message is held for review. Wow. Jesus Christ, why is Gamora? Is a troll comment from Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, well, I don't have the script of Guardians of the Galaxy. But there's, like the whole Sodom and Gomorrah thing. Have you ever heard of it? Where do you think they got Gomorrah from? If you take loans out using your net worth, property ownings, you get tax-free money. I don't know what that has to do with anything we're talking about. If you take loans out using... Oh, yeah, this is like people borrowing against their stocks and stuff so that they never have to pay taxes. I think that's what Audrey's getting at. Hi, I'm new here. Your first 5 minutes are absolutely interesting. Thank you, Barry. Yammering while are you gibbering and jabbering? Okay. Wealthy money hack. It's funny. Apparently, Barry and Gerald have very different takes on what I'm doing here. Net worth. All right. I'm just trying to get caught up and skipping through some of these. Exactly. And that's how the wealthy skirt taxes. They take loans out against their holdings, and that money is tax-free. And then they die and their children inherit it. And then they want to make sure that the inheritance can't be taxed. The whole thing is called buy, borrow, die, if you've never heard of it. That's why the whole thing where, like Elon Musk shouldn't have to pay taxes because it's all in stocks is nonsense to me. I don't really care. People have tax liens on their homes. If a middle class person has to sell his house to pay for his taxes, I have no issues with Elon Musk having to sell some shares of stock or take a loan against his stocks to pay his taxes. Conservatives and liberals are two wings of the same bird. No, they're not. That's just sophistry. It's nonsense. Like no, it's just such a silly thing to say. And it's a way to disavow yourself from the system, to just pull back and be condescending and look down at everything and never have to do anything. It's never having to be for anything. It's lazy and it's incompetent. Obamacare is crap. It's unaffordable. It's fraud. No, it's not crap. I don't know how old you are, Judy, but I'm old enough to remember what it was like before the Affordable Care Act. And yes, I think that we need to improve. But this is not a productive thing to say. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't show any understanding at all of what the subject matter is. It's just saying stuff. This is what I mean when I say, is it even possible to have a real conversation? Socialism doesn't work. Yes, it does. It works all over the world. It works in all kinds of places. The happiest countries in the world are democratic socialism or social democracies. They're mixed capitalism. What has D-bag Trump actually accomplished in his second term to make life better for his public? This is like, what has he done? Like they sit there and they just say he's making America great again. How? By starting wars and jacking up gas prices? Brett, you had mentioned something earlier about in Oklahoma. Are they like actually running out of the oil reserve? Obamacare is why rural hospitals are being shut down. No, that's not why. That's not why. That has absolutely no. That's not why. That's like the most upside down ever said in the history of upside down. That's too upside down to be on the Netflix show, whatever it was called. Like it doesn't even qualify for the world of upside down because it's just that ridiculous. It is no, that is not why. I mean, if you would like to explain how that happens, if you want to explain the process and show you actually understand even what the Affordable Care Act is, if you want to explain why it's connected to rural hospitals shutting down, because it's not. I know why it is. I know people that actually do this for a living that have had to explain it to me. I've done research on it. I've studied it. You don't know what you're talking about, Audrey. At least, like, I'm happy to engage, to learn. Maybe you know something I don't know, but just stating nonsense as though it's an empirical fact does not make you a credible witness. The branding campaign has already begun, labeling political rivals and connecting them to unsavory branding, and people fall for it all the time, which is why I want to have good faith conversations. That's why I want to talk about actual issues and what a mutual goal would be and how we get there, instead of this, it's all Obama's fault. It's the year of our Lord 2026. It's been over a decade since Barack Obama was president. Like, move the fornication along. No, our current healthcare problems are not Obama's fault. And they're going to get a lot worse when we stop funding Medicaid, or when we make these massive cuts to Medicaid. Do you ever wonder why? Think about this, MAGAs. Why do you think that the One Big Beautiful Bill Act had the tax cuts kick in this year, but had the Medicaid cuts kick in next year? If those Medicaid cuts are so great, why didn't they cut in right now? Think about it. If you're capable, give it some thought. Joe did get 81 million votes. Answer, please. Answer what? I'm not sure. Oh, he's asking somebody else. Well, you could start by reforming the standards for healthcare and Social Security, so people who actually don't have any reason to be on it are removed. Okay. What do you mean by the standards for healthcare and Social Security, so people who actually don't have any reason to be on it are removed? Are you suggesting that there are people that are on disability that are getting Medicare, that are like there are so many people on Medicare through disability, that's the reason that we have issues? Have you got any idea how difficult it is to get approved for disability? The issues with our disability are not that there are too many people on it that shouldn't be on it. The issue with our healthcare system and disability is that there are people not on it that should be on it. I mean, like, this is, I could go on a 30-minute tirade about this. My wife is on disability. I can tell you about what she had to do to get it. And from personal experience, I know how hard it is to get on it and to stay on it. She has to like file constantly, affirm that she did not stop being disabled. You're just regurgitating talking points. You're not actually looking at it. What evidence do you have that there is this massive fraud on Medicare and disability? There isn't any, because it doesn't exist. And 12 years later, Trump still doesn't have a medical plan. It's going to come right after the peace plan with Iran and his infrastructure. Remember the infrastructure plan? Obama, since the 2 weeks that we've been waiting for Trump's infrastructure plan, Obama won the president, came up with an infrastructure plan, passed his infrastructure plan, and left office. Socialism is Christ-like, love your neighbor. So there's actually Acts 2:56, I think the verse is, something like that, says that they sold everything and had all things in common. The apostles were literally communists. They lived in a literal commune. Liberals love communism. In the UK, we pay national insurance and get health care regardless of age, race, etc. And in the UK, they spend half as much per capita as what we pay in the United States, with everybody getting it. And then people are like, oh, but what about the long waiting list? As though we don't have long waiting lists here in the United States, or we don't have people sitting there like literally dying in waiting rooms because of the long waits. Funny how you mute people who proved you. Okay, one, nobody's proven me wrong. And number two, I haven't muted anybody. Corny joke incoming. Okay. Okay. What has D-Bag actually accomplished? Okay. You want a corny joke? This was one I just thought of today as I was shopping. Why did the tea keep making rookie mistakes? It was green. You say corny joke, I'm going to give you a corny joke. What was D-Bag actually accomplishing in positive for American public? Still haven't gotten an answer from anybody. People are being muted that use foul language and are just schizoid name calling. Yeah, I have 2 moderators that mute for very specific reasons. All right, so here's things that get you muted. 1, just spamming, Control-C, Control-V, and just posting the same comment over and over again. That'll get you muted because you're not contributing to the conversation. Number 2, using profanity or racist language. And I'm not talking about just like one time. But if you're, basically if you're trying to engage in a conversation, a real conversation, you don't get muted. If you're just trying to dominate the screen, then you get muted. What would Jesus do? Jesus would definitely not vote for Trump. Socialism has never worked. I say, hell yeah, I'm MAGA. Well, it has worked, though. Saying it doesn't mean it's not true. Capitalism has never worked. See, you can say stupid things. It doesn't mean they're not stupid. I get called MAGA all the time. I just for having different opinions than the left. Okay, whatever. I don't care if you're called MAGA or if you want to be called MAGA or if you're not MAGA or whatever. But here you are. You're sitting there, acting like being called MAGA is bad, and then you're referring to the left, right? You're complaining about the left being tribal, but in calling the left, anybody who is not agreeing with you is the left. So tribalism is okay for you, but not for anybody else? Is that what you're saying? Okay, our nation's constitution protects privacy and private property rights. Yes. Communism can never take hold in the US because of this reason. Just stop with the... I don't know who is arguing for communism. Socialism never works. Who told you that? I mean, it's... Hey, Barry. If you want a conversation, you'll have to do better keeping up with the comments, but I'm trying. I mean, they're pouring through. Do you think America will annex Greenland or Cuba first? Cuba. The strict and heavy crackdown on the unregulated flow of illegal migrants and traffickers across the border is a good thing. He's done. I don't know who's arguing in favor of illegal immigration here. I never said that we should have illegal immigrants. I don't know what this is a non sequitur. Somebody says, comment on me, please. I'm sorry, I'm gotten so far behind that I can't even see the comment. This is the top comment I'm looking at right now. You are not immune to propaganda. Question everything. He's trying to engage everybody in order, but it's mostly just troll poop, which is why we need to mute people, which is why Brett's doing that. What has Trump actually accomplished for the American public? Oh, Trump, I agree. He hasn't accomplished anything at all. I give him credit for Operation Warp Speed. That's it. COVID was lab created and relates to Steele 2020. Where is your evidence for that? They think if they tell the lie enough, it becomes true. And they do. They just keep saying that. And it's like, how do you converse with somebody like that? I think, Audrey, based on your comments, I'm not sure I agree with everything you think, or that you agree with everything that I think, but I think that at least what you think is qualified as thoughts. A cult and the worships idolize a flawed man named Donald Trump. I bet a friend who believed COVID wasn't real. He didn't get vaccination, got COVID, and then died. Miss you, mate. There was that, what was it? Sorryantivaxxer.com. It was like a website of, prominent vaccine deniers who died. Definitely Biden's fault. Our oil reserve is gone. No, it's not. They care only about trolling. What you would need to do, if you could prove this, Gerald, what was the oil reserve when Biden opened it? What was the oil reserve when Biden left? Who started the war in Iran? Who opened up the oil reserve because of the war in Iran? Would we have needed to open up the oil reserves if there were no war with Iran? So how is it Biden's fault that what Trump did? They only care about trolling. And that's making America great again, I think. Just making other people angry is their idea of greatness. MAGA shares much in common with deceptions of the deceived by the Antichrist. Didn't we cast out demons and do works in your name? And I will say to them, depart from me. I never knew you. I'm about to leave, but you should address this. I don't know if you mean that I did address that, but it was probably after you typed that. But as far as I know, especially in a second term, Trump has done absolutely nothing for the American people. He accidentally did one thing for the American people in his first term. I don't get it. People worried about Biden eating an ice cream cone like he doesn't care. But Trump literally said, I don't even care, not even a little bit. They're even still running segments on Fox showing Joe Biden. There was a segment on Fox recently, like in the last month, of Joe Biden eating an ice cream cone as a private citizen. And they're like, he still hasn't learned his lesson. Look, he's still eating an ice cream cone. America was great during the 80s and 90s when wages were stable, racial tension was at an all-time low, and services were affordable, and America was not in any major conflict. Well, that's arguable, but I don't know how that's forward thinking. So I'm not going to get into it. You may be willing to read, but you lack the ability to comprehend American freedom. That's such a weird thing to say. What has Trump actually accomplished for the American public? The golden age was under FDR with socialist policy. What has Trump actually accomplished for the American public? The golden age that resulted in boomers. Yes, Lincoln is objectively the best president in our history by far. Yeah, Lincoln ended slavery. FDR ended Hitler. Donald Trump ended taxes for billionaires. I think we can agree, you know, like there's a real conversation about whether, you know, FDR or Lincoln or Jefferson or Washington or even Teddy Roosevelt. Like Obama is in that conversation for best president. Clinton is top 10. You know, they all have their flaws. Teddy Roosevelt allowed for torture. George Washington had dentures made out of slave teeth. They all had flaws. None of them were perfect, but they weren't Trump. Trump is not the worst president in American history. He is the 2 worst presidents in American history. FDR was the reason term limits exist. Yes. Up until then, Washington set the precedent, and FDR is the only person to ever go against that precedent. And so then after he left office, they put in a term limit. When boomers were born, the country had a marginal tax rate of 90%. Yep. We gave up trying when it comes to the loony left. We armed up. Yes. You went and you armed up. You want to go and shoot the people that disagree with you because they're loony. I just want you to think about that. You said that you're going to kill people you don't agree with because they are loony. I have a PhD. What has Trump actually done for the American public? Watch the movie Civil War with Kristen Dunst tonight. It's free on Tubi. Gee, I wonder why. Pinking emoji. Is that I watched? I think I watched part of that and wasn't into it. FDR served toward, yes. And that's your opinion. I think both were good presidents, but I'm saying I feel like Lincoln is more preferred than FDR. Lincoln is generally considered the top president. Like they do these presidential rankings, and you know, usually the top 5 are like Lincoln. I think Lincoln is usually first, and Jefferson and Washington and the Roosevelts are usually in the top 5. You know, usually it's some variation of them, and then you get like Obama, I think, is 8th now, and Clinton is number 10. Depends on which one you look at. But anyway, unless you think FDR destroyed the means of production in European countries during World War II, I don't think he was responsible for the economic boom from us production after World War II. There's a lot of assumption there about what was Trump actually accomplished for the American people. You realize that we were coming out of the Depression and the economy was recovering before we went into war, right? And that there are lots of things that Roosevelt did after the war that actually had nothing to do with the means of production in Europe. Lincoln could have been good if he survived the assassination. Dude, I don't get when people say Trump 20. Anyway, the point is not whether or not FDR or Lincoln was the better president. The point is that Donald Trump is nowhere near either one. Dude, I don't get it when people say Trump 2028. It's impossible. Let your false hopes and broken dreams go already. Because they don't have anything else. They don't have an actual ideology to cling to. They have a person. And once that person is gone, they don't know what else to grasp for. They won't know what to do. They follow a cult leader. They don't follow an ideology. They're not actually for a thing. They're for a person. Which is why when I say, let's talk about, immigration, or when I say, let's talk about healthcare, or when I say, let's talk about actual voter integrity laws, they get into this like, do you really think Joe Biden got 81 votes? They can't think beyond Trump. You don't have to throw me out. I found my way out. You are not. Okay, bye, Gerald. It was nice talking to you. I don't know. It's the best move, but I think America needs to do what the UK has done with healthcare, and America has a system the same as the NHS people pay tax to have already paid hospitals. I think that the problem with that is we don't have the infrastructure to implement that right away. I think that Obama's original plan, which is what should have been happened in the first place, is just have a public option for an insurance company. That's all we need, just a public option. And if people want private insurance, they can keep private insurance. If they want to go with the public option, they can go with the public option. Of course, the public option will be better and cheaper because it's not a profit organization. This notion that privatizing everything makes it better and government makes everything worse, it's a bunk idea. But like MAGA's not even really an idiotology. Because again, being an idiot means you actually tried to understand something and failed. MAGA doesn't even try to you can never get him to say what great means. Trump is a disgusting, convicted sexual abuser. And that's about the nicest thing you can say about him. I'm glad he won just to hear. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. That's their version of making America great again. It's not about what he can do. It's just, it makes other people upset. Shut up. What are you doing that's so good? All light spewing out of your mouth. This is why your party is worthless. Just boo-hoo, me, wahoo, go outside and live there. See what I mean? You can't talk to him. This is what you get. You try to have an honest conversation, and this is what you get. Just this. And, I'm the one that's crying here. It was a jury in New York City. Yes, people in New York City. Only people like this, like they want to act like only people who are Trump supporters should be allowed to be on Trump's jury. All right, here's the facts for you. First of all, even if like 30% of New York City is Republican, which I think it's more like 40%, but even if it were like 30%, then the chances of having an all Democratic jury, like all the jury members voting for Trump or voting for or voting against Trump, is like 5%. Second, we know for a fact there were Trump supporters on the jury because they said so. Number three, whether you're a Trump supporter or not does not mean that you see the law based on who you voted for. The jury saw the facts and they reached a verdict based on the facts, not based on their political opinion. David, you literally have no proof. He says, we have a jury verdict. The jury heard the actual evidence and ruled beyond a shadow of a doubt, or beyond a preponderance of the evidence, based on the actual thing. What we do know is that he is on tape bragging about how he does the kind of thing that she said he did. He's on tape doing that. Trump wasn't found guilty of, he wasn't. Who said he was? I said he was found beyond a preponderance of the evidence. He was an adjudicated sexual assaultist. And no, it wasn't a criminal case. That's not why it wasn't a criminal case. It wasn't a criminal case because it was a lawsuit. It was a civil case. And it wasn't probable that he could have done it. It was beyond a preponderance of the evidence that he did do it. Not that it was possible it was done. Dude, if you're going to correct people, don't be wrong while you're correcting people. Otherwise, you just look like an idiot. After 250 years, the country went from a new home to one of the poopiest places to live in ever. What a glow down. Oh yeah, now he's ruining the White House more. Remember, MAGA and right-wingers, you are talking to people who supported killing Trump and celebrated assassination Charlie Kirk. They are horrendous, abhorrent, and evil. I have never done either of those things. You are a waste of space. See, this guy actually wants to kill me, and you're talking about made up things about who I want killed. Oh, so civilly he's sexually abused. What's the bloody difference? Disgusting. And in vernacular, this is like the whole thing with, like where somebody accused him of rape, and then he tried to sue, and the jury smacked it down, saying that according to vernacular, common vernacular, rape fits the definition of the common understanding of the word. Generally speaking, you can rape people with things other than your penis, right? If you jam anything inside a woman's vagina, most people consider that rape. It doesn't have to be a penis to be raped. And it's like, if you're just sitting there going, he didn't rape her, he just sexually assaulted her, then I want you to think about that. Like, I don't want a president who sexually assaults people and brags about it. Too much money is sending desperate men to war to run the country properly. The right to a job, I would say, is the established foundation for reform. It's a spectrum, dummy. I don't know who you're saying that to. Socialists are folks who want capitalism to work for workers. Communists want to dismantle capitalism and vertical powers to reach a stateless, moneyless, classless society. Yes, there is a difference between socialism and communism, especially when we talk about it, in today's terms. Most of the time when people talk about socialism today, they're talking about mixed capitalism, where some aspects of the society are social and some are private, and there's just like you don't have unions in socialism, for instance. It's like having a union for self-employed people. Socialists, lost your comment. Socialism workers own means of production. Trump got more votes in 2020 than he did in 2024. Honestly, do you guys still think that Kamala was a good candidate? I don't think it's relevant. Politicians quick to denounce communism, but where was the denouncement of fascism? Study poll. Nope, it's not worth it to talk to MAGA. Fascism is right side. What bring COVID up? Talk about bait and switch. I don't know. They keep bringing up COVID for some reason. Trump is a socialist, but he's not on the left. Trump's definitely there's like socialism. One aspect of fascism that is overlooked is fascism retains economically. It allows corporations to retain their independence in terms of financial ownership, right? Like they're still privately owned, but fascism is supposed to do what the government tells it to do. If the government says do this, then they should do that, right? So a lot of the stuff that Trump is doing, like trying to dictate what media can say and do and who owns it and all of that kind of stuff, is actual fascism, but it looks a lot like socialism. Then some of what Trump is doing, like with these new gas stations, is actual socialism. Fascism is abuse of power to subjugate others to the personal benefit of fewer and fewer. When I was a kid, Star Trek Returns were on TV. Humanity eliminated money, focusing instead on personal self-improvement and the betterment of society. Definitely not MAGA, right? That was it's kind of a neat spin on, like, the dystopian futures was a utopian future. I wish we had more of those. What alternative timeline do you live in? Boy, you can't fix stupid. I don't know what you're talking about, mistress. I don't even know if you're talking to me or somebody else, or what do you mean by alternative? I don't. Trump is a capitalist. He's an owner of a capital. He's an owner. Okay. Most people are not extreme and very. Trump is an oligarch. He is. Trump is the result of capitalist mentality in politics. Socialism requires a concentration of power in the government that leads to authoritarianism. Wow. Okay. Whoa. I'm 45. I thought I was catching up and I'm getting further behind. MAGA just blab out their one-liner insults and they think they're gotcha quotes. Socialism about democratizing power. All right. So here, I'm just going to have to, I'm going to scroll down here. And breaking news. Lindsey Graham's sister appointment to... So I'm sorry if I skipped over your comment. I'm just trying to get more or less caught up. So apologies. If there was anything you really wanted me to address and I skipped over, just go ahead and re-enter it. I was like 45 minutes behind. Breaking news, Lindsey Graham's sister appointment to serve Graham. Rest of term, is that legal? Yes, it is. That's the South Carolina law, as the governor gets to reappoint them. And this was expected. I don't have any issues with it. You came here to ask what a woman is, right? Did we get a trans comment? Oh, the left doesn't even know how to define a woman. Yes, we do. You want to know what a definition of a woman, Tim, is? A definition of a woman is a person who covers their drink when you walk past them in a bar. Okay, not much. He's still addressing a wave of trolls that are shadowbound now. What's up, Four Eyes? Oh, I have reading glasses. I guess I'm an inferior person. Breaking news, Lindsey Graham's sister. Okay, so yeah, no. Tim Blue, a woman is the person. Ah, there you go. Boom! We're on the same page, runner. All right. You absolutely have unions in socialism. The state. No, you don't. You have unions in socialism, not in communism. If the people own the actual means of production, then the people don't need a union because the people own are the owners. It's like I joke. I'm self-employed, and I joke that I'm going to start a union for self-employed people. And the joke is a joke because I am the employer. When do democratic socialists study history? Why? What a weird thing to say. Is this guy... I'm not defending fascism, no. I'm definitely not defending fascism. I don't know what made you think I'm defending fascism. I'm just saying that Donald Trump is a fascist. That's all. A lot of what he's doing looks like it's communism or socialism, but it's actually fascism. I am coming quickly, and my reward is with me to render to every man according to what he has done. Okay. Does that include Trump? Just curious. For Stalin and Hitler were all social democrats. No, Stalin and Hitler were not social democrats. Do you know that the poem starts, first they came for the communists, then they came for the socialists. Hitler persecuted socialists. He was not a social... Stop saying stupid stuff. I know that you have heard stupid stuff on the media. You've heard stupid stuff on Twitter or whatever, but you don't have to repeat them. Just because somebody said something stupid, you're not obligated to repeat it. If you've come here all the way from Britain to spam out, think twice, very carefully. All right. Yeah. All right. That's the last time, Mr. Worm. We're not, this is not a Bible class. Stop doing the Bible verse thing. It's annoying. So, remember, if you want to have an honest conversation, we can have an honest conversation. This is like, I keep trying to have my goal is to have an honest conversation with the MAGA, and I'm more than happy to have one. But it just seems like it's impossible. Not because, I've tried to, my basic criteria for an honest conversation just comes down to, can we at least agree on what the goal is? Find a topic, let's agree on the goal, and let's abide in reality when it comes to addressing how to solve that. Wait, we doing puns? Dude, it's called the Pun Show. I am Machine Pun Kelly. I do puns all the time. So, yes, I do puns. I am do politics too. You might call me a pundit. Get it? Pundit. Socialism will work this time. You say that like you have any grasp at all of reality. You realize that most of Europe right now is doing variation of socialism, right? Like almost every other country in the world is more socialist than we are. And we're the country right now that has struggles with things like education and healthcare. Maybe other countries are doing some things better than we are. A laughy face. This is sign language for laughy face. I'm not, maybe not, but that's what I'm doing. That's the laughy face. All right. You know, doing laughy faces does not actually make an argument. Like just this is not conversation. This is avoiding conversation. You do realize that social Dems are considered fascists because of the Freikorps, right? To Rosa Luxemburg, you would be considered right wing, even if you see yourself as, dude. That's nonsense. That's just nonsense. No, the social Dems are not considered fascists. Like I don't even know where to go with that. That's just so. That's like saying that circles have right angles. Don't forget, we're all from Britain. Not everybody. The statute of the tax case ran out. 1 year and 47 days. The charges should have never been brought. The judge and DA changed it to change. No, none of that is true. None of that is true. They extended the law. It had nothing to do with Trump. There were like thousands of people that were affected by this. And it was a response to the Me Too movement, where women who had been silenced were able to sue people that had the statute of limitations had expired. It wasn't just for Trump. This idea that they did it just to get Trump is funny. And you know what? Like this is like, this is one of those things where there's no logical consistency between the arguments, right? Like on the one hand, Trump didn't do it and it's all made up. And on the other hand, they just did it to get Trump. They just changed this law to get Trump. How did they change the law to get Trump if he didn't do it? Like, why wouldn't they just make up a story from a different time within the statute of limitations? It's like it's not even a well thought out cockamamie conspiracy theory. It's just being done. Okay, and social Dems have conflict with each other. I don't know what you mean by social Dems have conflict with each other. Are you saying that the entire left is not a monolith? That there's actually variations of thought? Also, I included FDR as an American. Well, FDR is an American president. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Actually, I don't know where Brett is from. For some reason, I would want to say Kentucky, but... Oh, your ancestors. Okay. No, Brett. I mean, our ancestors. Like, dude, read a bloody history book in America. Okay, you realize that not everybody in America came over here from England, right? There are a lot of people that came from other countries. I would like to say, read a history book. I think the most common ancestry is Irish, not English. I think like 30 or 40% of Americans have, Irish ancestry, including a lot of black people. Hitler was more socialist than modern Europe is. No, he wasn't. Europe is now a capitalist. They're just, dude, go away. Go away. Just go away. Take your nonsense somewhere else. It's just, I'm not going to debate whether circles have angles. Do you think everybody in America comes from Britain? Democrats are not socialists. Socialists are not Democrats. Stop with the BS. And yes, sorry, there are Democrats. There's democratic socialists. There's social democracy. There is, communists. There's a range of thought that disagrees with Trump, right? Like, not everybody that disagrees with Trump is a communist. It's not. This is one of the MAGA things that is hardest to deal with, is this kind of, everything becomes this false dichotomy, and it's either Trump or bad. Okay, Spain, Germany, wherever point is, we as a country are born of immigrants. Yes. And what is the point of it? Like, why is that? Why are we bringing this up? Obviously, we're a nation of immigrants. Not making an argument. I'm laughing at you. No, you're like the guy telling a really stupid racist joke in the party, and everybody's looking at you, and you're like sitting there acting like that makes it funnier. Not even Nordic economies see themselves as socialists. No, they see themselves as social democracies. Do you know what an equivocation fallacy is? It is when people use words in different ways, and because they have different meanings, but then they try to conflate those two ways together. That's what you're doing with socialism right now. All right. That's why I'm trying to say what we describe, what the Nordic countries are, what Europe is, what Spain is, what France is, what Canada is called mixed capitalism, to where you have capitalism and a mix of capitalism and socialism, right? Even in the United States to some degree, right? We don't have a private military. Mixed capitalism. That's what all of that is. And when you talk about DSA, that's what they're talking about. They're just talking about more mix, less capitalism. Now our backpedaling. Who needs to read a book? You do. Fascism is authoritarianism and is pro-capitalism. Fascism is the capitalist version of authoritarianism. All kinds of governments can be authoritarian. Like communists can be authoritarian. Fascists can be authoritarian. Islamic, republics, not the Islamic Republic of Japan, but Iran is authoritarian. It's just the thing that changes is the ideology that is authoritarian. The way that we use the term, so there's technically, strictly speaking, democratic socialism is socialism achieved through democratic means. Like, instead of a violent overthrow of the government, like Mao or Stalin, the idea is that you convince voters to do the whole socialism thing. It's achieved through peaceful means. and through democratic means. That's one definition of democratic socialism. But in practice, a lot of countries that will say they're democratic socialism actually are social democracies. And some countries that we call democratic socialists actually call themselves social democracies. And it's mixed capitalism. That's what we're talking about here. It means that there are some things that are private and some things that are public. So like the means of paying for healthcare might be public, right? It's not private insurance, it's public insurance. But you still own your own house. You still drive your own car. You still have privately owned stores. And just not there are some things that are more important that belong to the public, like utilities. That the public should own electricity. Like private companies shouldn't be able to say, no, you don't get heat because you didn't pay your bill. First person to come up with public utilities was a Republican. His name was Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt, in that sense, was a social democrat. I'm not backpedaling. Well, I think that's fair then. If people correct themselves, we need to allow them to correct themselves. Otherwise, what's the point in discourse? It's clear you never debated a real leftist because social democrats are... No, it's clear you've never read a book. Okay, Donald Trump needs to exit stage left. I have comments, but I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. All authoritarian regimes are pro-state, not inherently private property or capitalism. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like the means of authoritarianism is not, one, but like Donald Trump is an authoritarian, right? I mean, he's literally, that is his, the executive, his whole stick is a unified executive branch, right? Where he gets to decide everything. And then if the courts don't go along with him, then the courts are bad, and he tries to browbeat the legislature. He is an authoritarian. By his own admission, he argues in court that he should be allowed to be an authoritarian. Backpedaling is when you argue about something vehemently and then backing down without apologizing. Derailers get shadow banned. Talk to Kelly. In social democracy, myself, and House, just stop. MAGA is starting. You're trying to define people's ideology that they don't agree. That's what they think. All right. If you tell somebody that they think a certain way and they say, no, I don't think that way, that's not a debate you can have. You need to understand what somebody's ideology is, not argue with what it isn't. That's called, this is literally a straw man argument. You are trying to erect an argument that does not exist because you think you can defeat that. Nobody thinks this way. MAGA is starting to get nervous and particularly chatty as we get closer and closer to the midterms, which will castrate Donald Trump politically. His approval ratings are down below 35% now. And what's actually really compelling is his disapproval ratings are like at 65 or 66, 67, 68%. It's almost like he's getting to the point where his disapproval is almost double what his approval ratings are. And this is one of the more startling polls I've seen. And not that I think she's going to win, but that it's close is incredible. That Greg Abbott is actually only 3 points ahead in Texas for the gubernatorial race. He won. He beat Beto, who was supposed to be, like the chance. He beat Leto. He beat the crap out of Beto. He won by 11 points, and he's only ahead by 3. MAGA is losing its popularity, and people are going to the grocery stores and they're seeing the prices, and they're starting to realize they've been conned. And I think that's going to get worse, not better. I think that there's a thing called dummy mandering, to where you try to gerrymander districts, and you siphon off some of the people that had a big lead in one district to shore up another district, and so then you get 2 districts instead of 1. But in Texas, actually, this happened before. Sometimes what happens, this happened in 2018. They tried to gerrymander, and what happened is they actually lost safe districts. And didn't get the new districts. And I think there could be some dummy mandering happening. You look at the off-year elections, and across the board there was like a 10 to 17 point movement away from the Trump results. People are just, they've had it with Trump. And not everybody, but enough. And again, Trump won with a plurality, not with a majority. He never had the majority of the country on his side. Only, dude, blah, 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 blah. They claimed COVID, like, you're still going on about this nonsense. They claimed COVID delayed the charges being brought, and once again, only legislation can make law change. I have no idea what laws you're talking about. What do you mean by claimed COVID? They claimed COVID? Oh, they claimed, I think, so you're saying they claimed COVID delayed the changes being brought, and once again, only the legislation can make the law change. Okay, whatever they made claims. Those claims were heard in court, and the court decided that the claims weren't valid. Like they're like in Wisconsin, and we can get, they get into the whole merits and stuff like that, and versus standing, but they actually also addressed the merits. They didn't rule on the merits, but they addressed the merits. And the Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that the governor had the power to, granted by the state's emergency powers, to have that election. That's number one, is they had it. And number two, there's also the recourse. Like, if you were to, say that the legislation, or that what the governor did was valid, that doesn't mean you can throw out the election results. The people that voted still voted. They still did so in good faith. And so you can't just punish the voters that voted against Trump. And number three, who's to say that somehow is the reason Trump lost? Like, the people that voted by mail could have just still gone and voted in person. It's all just a dumb thing. And so, like, as I was playing at the beginning of this, as Lindsey Graham said, the recently late Lindsey Graham said, on January 6, 2021, he said, and I'll repeat this because I think it's one of the few things I'll ever agree with him. He said, if Al Gore can accept 5-4, I can accept 4-3. Yes, and unfortunately, it's going to get worse closer to November. No more they are racially made districts. They're just made white now. The district should be natural where people live, not divided up into little pieces so that black people don't have the right to vote, or have the right people to vote for their own representative. What we have, this kind of view of, if you address racism, then that's the real racism. When you start carving Memphis a natural entity into 4 different districts, each that are attached to massive rural areas, so that they all of the Memphis, where it's like 80% black, all of them have to have a white representative. They're not represented. Literally, they are not represented. Their views are not represented. Our whole country exists under the premise that there's no we shouldn't have taxation without representation. Representation is why we made America in the first place. And you're denying people their representation based on their race, as long as you don't admit it's about race. Hopefully people become so sick of these trolls by then that there will be a massive way to show them what time it is in voting polls. All right. Al says, you're the only one. You're the one. I am not falsely claiming that Europe is socialist. I am saying that most of Europe practices mixed capitalism. And you have not said one thing about what I have said. You have just kept going on and on about your little diatribe and your little, equivalence about the word socialism. You're the one making it about the word socialism. What I am saying is you're using the word socialism in a different way than most people understand it. And you're trying to say that, reverse engineer your argument back to that. So that's why I'm saying it's mixed capitalism. And you won't address that. And I'm not addressing your comments anymore unless you come back to that. Because I'm not going to sit here and just let you hijack the conversation with stupidity that I've already addressed 12 times. Donald Trump will be obliterated in the midterms. Well, the Republican Party will. Unfortunately, Donald Trump won't. Every troll fueled my desire to vote hard AF. Trump is undefeated in primary endorsements. No, he's not. You're the one who said you're... Okay, I didn't say that. A mixed economy, mixed capitalism, not a mixed economy. So I've been saying mixed capitalism all along, dude. You either... All right. Hey, Brett, if House keeps going on about this nonsense, you can put him on timeout. I just... Monopolies are the problem, and politicians let it happen. If you want to engage with actual, productive conversation, go ahead. But you're sitting there making an argument against something that nobody is arguing. Why does Donald Trump believe that he still has a broad mandate with the American public when his big, beautiful, belligerent butthole bill only passed in the Senate 51-50? You know, it was funny because when Barack Obama won with a 60-40 Senate and a massive landslide in the popular vote, then they were all saying that's not a mandate. Donald Trump barely wins with a plurality of the vote, and he's got a mandate. Kelly, how come you... I don't hate... I don't know what you mean by that. I'm the one trying to have conversations with people that hate me. I don't know how... James Tallarico, I love what he said. He said, imagine if all these Christians did what the Bible said and loved their enemies. How much better would this country be? And I think about that a lot. I think that is such a beautiful statement. Imagine if the Christian right loved their enemies the way the Bible says, instead of sitting there acting like making America great again means offending the people that they disagree with. Trump gets briefed on his popularity in Israel. That's why he thinks he's popular. Democratic socialism is different from social democracy. I don't know why we're sitting there having this debate. Socialist democracy, think of this quote, John F. Kennedy, if you give the people no peaceful way to resolve the problem, they will choose the other way. That's not what socialist democracy is. or democratic socialism, strictly speaking, is socialism achieved through democratic means, and so it's through democracy. It's like actually, anyway. I don't know if that's what you mean. Anyway. How you doing, Dusty? Welcome to the show again. It's just semantics. It's semantics, but there's also equivocation. I'm trying to think of a good example of equivocation fallacy. I think I might have misread what Dusty meant. Socialist democracy. Think of this quote. I think he's saying, oh, I see. That's why we need socialist democracy. I think he's saying that. Social democracy operates within a capitalist system, while democratic socialism replaces capitalism with state-controlled socialism. Yeah, we've already been through this. That's the goal. In a strictly speaking way, then yes, the goal is to do that. But even in the DSA, they talk about wealth tax, right? How do you have a wealth tax if you don't have any wealth? Like, this is like, we're arguing about terms and not actual positions. The DSA is not for actual, like, even you go to their website and they'll say, and then people will like quote part of it. They're talking about the democratic socialism. They're talking about the socialism is it's something. I think it says something about of utilities and means of transportation, right? And by transportation they mean things like roads, not cars. That was one of the most coherent statements I've seen tonight. Winston Churchill said that if fascism comes to America, they will come as anti-fascists. Okay, Charlie. I guess that means that you're like anybody. Like, what kind of upside down nonsense is that? I don't even know if that. I'll check and see if that's a real quote, but it's not what he means. The people that are actually carrying out fascism right now are Donald Trump and his minions. They're the ones walking around asking American citizens for their papers. Why did you steal valor? I don't know what you mean by steal valor. Biden couldn't find the stage exit. Oh, yeah. And you've got Donald Trump is sharp as a spoon right now. Can't stay a week for a meeting. Talking about the Islamic Republic of Japan. But sure, let's talk about Joe Biden couldn't find the stage exit. Donald Trump got lost on a stage himself like a week ago. God's hate makes America great, whatever that means. That's funny. I don't know what's funny. It was quote unquote, but why practically any socialist leader in America or elsewhere do so. Sorry. My mouth is dry, so I'm losing my ability to read. It was quote on, okay. Who are you accusing of stolen valor? Yes, he is 100%. Donald Trump is fascist, you mean? Trying to think what I said that you might be. So all right. You time out. Where was the ICE outrage when Obama depicted? Where was Obama murdering American citizens on the street? Trump thinks there were airports during the Revolutionary War. I don't know what you mean by stealing valor. First of all, I am a veteran, so I'm not stealing valor. The definition of authoritarian here is silly. Where did I define authoritarian? Kelly is a veteran. Then maybe they should stop calling themselves socialist if they don't know what it means. Or maybe you should just understand that your understanding of socialism needs to be more flexible. Because Obama, instead of getting into semantic arguments over semantics you don't even understand, because Obama deported people upon entry for the most part. He wasn't going door to door checking papers or stopping people on the streets. Straw manning is so annoying. I was in the Air Force from 1986 to 1990. I served my country. I don't care what you think of it. I'm not stealing valor. I'm not pretending I was a combat veteran. I wasn't. I don't know where you even came up with stolen valor. What way am I stealing valor? What valor have I stolen? Who are you? Have you ever served the military? Straw man's and injecting meaning into other people's words that didn't exist, so common in every debate. This is what I mean when I say, thank you, Dusty. This is what I mean when I say you can't have an honest conversation. They have these sort of weird, like they sit there. I think what they do is they go in their little bubbles and they talk about the liberals and the leftists and, and how they owned us and their fantastic talking points. They never engage. They don't actually hear what the other side has to say at all. They don't listen to it. So now you boomers killed America, and whatever that means. I'm not even a boomer. The stolen valor bot is gone. I guess I won't miss him. Leftists still believe in polls and approval ratings. Okay, how many times have you used that 80? Why is it that polls don't matter when you don't like them, but when you want to talk about voter ID, you talk about how 80% of Americans want voter ID, which is a poll that has nothing to do with the SAVE Act. MAGA is the 30%. Insanity. Your orange god talks about approval, and yes, Donald Trump has never brought up approval ratings at all, right? Good point, Brett. Obama this, Biden that. He needs to get a freaking calendar. I don't think I ever heard either Obama or Biden bring up approval ratings. Boomer had it made, government home loans. Yeah, I don't know why you're talking about boomers. I'm Gen X. I'm Gen X. I was born in 1967. And I've been yelling about how the boomers are creating a mess for, 50 years now. Well, not 40 years. For God's sake, the 250th American speech rally was slop. It wasn't even a speech to last hundreds of years. The man spent an entire month debating whether or not Democrats or Democrats should be spelled with a B. And then he has this incredibly divisive speech, and everybody wants to act like why can't the Democrats get behind him? Hillary Clinton says one thing about half the Donald Trump supporters go in the bucket of deplorables, and they still, mainline that as though, the insult of all insults. 10 years later. You understand how to read polling. Every poll worth its weight goes in depth who and where they poll, yet no people quote it out of context. Trustability of the organization is important. He rolled out the ghost of Roy Cohn for his big July 4th speech. That's pretty funny. The left in Congress calls the right Nazis. Please tell me which people called the right Nazis and fuel the hate. Okay, Donald Trump is calling everybody that disagrees with him communists. He called the Democrats the enemy of the people. He's called for literal. He tried to prosecute Democratic congressmen and senators for literally reading the UCMJ. He's trying to prosecute a guy that's not even a Democrat for posting a picture of seashells. But sure, this made up thing. You can't tell me a single Democrat that is sitting there calling the right Nazis. And we're not the ones killing free speech advocates under guise of hate speech. You guys literally killed protesters, right? The protesters are protesting ICE, and you killed them for doing so. And we're the ones killing free speech? You literally killed people for exercising free speech. Renee Good, Alex Preddy are dead because they practiced free speech, because they practiced their right to petition the government. Sit down, Charlie. Your ignorance is showing. If you don't want to be called Nazis, then maybe they shouldn't act like them. And in Stephen Miller cases, Stephen Miller is a Nazi. Full stop. He's also proof. Stephen Miller is what happens when a vampire shark spontaneously regenerates. I hate that all human names sound too similar to me. Trump started the war. Absolutely. Donald Trump started the war with Iran. And you notice how whenever they talk about the war with Iran, they will always use the passive voice, right? It's always the prices are just going up because of the start of hostilities in Iran. Not because we started hostilities with Iran. They just started all by themselves. We have technology to just have the entire country vote on a website, yet we choose not to. I don't know if we actually have the technology for that. I would not feel secure about that. That's crazy talk, the reverse racism nonsense. It's just willful ignorance. As I always say, if you don't see race, how can you say racism or see racism, right? When you sit there and you use annulling racism to be racism, then there is something seriously weird. Look what Elon turned Grok into. Yeah. You know what's fun to do? I do this. I will, like, Grok will give me one of the right-wing talking point answers. And so then I go to chat and I ask chat, how would you respond to this? And then I paste chat's answer. And then I beat Grok up using chat until Grok admits that he's wrong. It's fun. You should try it sometime. Brett, finest comment yet. According to Grouch, Elon is a better athlete than LeBron James. Oh, according to Grok. According to Donald Trump could have been a Major League Baseball player. I don't know why I said Grouch. I meant to say Grok. Well, private, like public Grok may as well be called Grouch. Yes, I know what free speech is. Only Nazis hate free speech. Right. And Donald Trump hates free speech. Donald Trump is the one trying to suppress free speech. Donald Trump is the one using the power of government to shut down free speech. If you think that free speech is a right, if you think that the government should not be shutting down free speech, then you should be opposed to Donald Trump. Unfortunately, on YouTube, Nazis get to say a lot of things. The report button is just a placebo at this point. Google loves MAGA. And I would like to point out that there is a difference between the government and a YouTube stream, right? And a YouTube stream, like, the free speech does not mean you get to have racist crap posted on somebody else's YouTube stream. And there's two aspects to free speech, right? There is there's free speech. That means you can say what you want to say without the government prosecuting you, right? Then there's also another aspect of free speech, which is called compelled speech. That means you can't be forced to say something you disagree with. And an example of that is a case I agree with, which not all liberals do, the wedding cake for the gay couple. Now, I think it's ludicrous to call a wedding cake gay or whatever, But I agree that you can't be forced to say something that you want. And if you consider decorating that wedding cake as a form of speech, which I do, compelling somebody to say things they don't agree with, I take issue with. And there's another case that's on the other side of that, where somebody there was a pro-life rally in a mall, and they took flyers to the printer. This was back before, copy machines and all that. And they wanted to print up these flyers for a pro-life rally. And the owner of the print shop was pro-choice, very against pro-life stuff. He said, I don't want to do it. And so then the Supreme Court decided that's compelled speech. You can't be forced to say things that you disagree with. So the same thing applies to platforms, right? Like, I can't sue Fox News for not having me on because they disagree with me. It's a private platform. They can platform whoever they want. And so if somebody's saying racist stuff, I don't want to have that on my channel. And so you get blocked. That's my right. That's my free speech. My freedom to not have the platform that I have built. I'm not saying it's like a huge platform. I'm definitely a long way from having a big, huge YouTube channel. Which, by the way, if you're not already subscribed, go ahead and do that. I'm not trying to, like act like I'm like this big, but it's still my platform. You want to have a racist go ahead, start your own YouTube channel. But compelled speech, if you don't think that gay people or that Christians should be forced to decorate wedding cakes for gay people, then that's fine. But by the same token, people that don't appreciate racism shouldn't be forced to platform racist comments on their YouTube stream. Most folks are super performative about their politics, even on the left. Yet the right wing is almost entirely reactionary without following the person who read the books to abuse them. Yep. Instead of trying to just own the libs is like such a dumb thing. And you know what? You never own the libs when you say that. What does that even mean? Like, I'm your slave now? Like, what does that mean? It's just a dumb. Owning the libs just means I went and I said something stupid to a lib. That's not owning the libs. That's just embarrassing yourself. If MAGA could just come into the channel and be kind and just state their opinion without name calling and the stupid slogans, they might be heard a little bit. And it's not just like, Brett, this is my goal. This is what I'm begging for constantly. Just let's have a conversation where there is a forward-thinking goal and we just base the discussion in reality. Like, why is that so hard? You can't even get a MAGA to agree that all Americans should be able to vote and only Americans should be able to vote. You can't even get them to agree. That seems like a reasonable goal for election integrity. I've tried, like, how many, comments do I get? 500 comments a day. I said this, like, in the last 5 shows, not one MAGA has said, that sounds like a reasonable goal. It's good to talk with MAGA on platforms because they are so evil it turns normal people off. Hello, I'm new to your channel. I did subscribe. What's the topic? Right now, we're talking about why it is that we can't talk to MAGAs. Oh, sorry. Forgot to click on you. Hello, I'm new to your channel. I did subscribe. What's the topic? Right now, we're talking about how it's hard to talk to MAGAs and have a productive conversation on why that is. That's for sure. And there have been, like, I think I've probably gotten more comments than typical today. But we've had easily, Brett, you'd agree, right? Like several hundred MAGAs comment, and not one of them actually was, even trying to be productive. I'm doing okay eating banana pepper pizza. Ooh. Dusty, I'm going to just use this to pitch my fresh milled flour. Again, if you've never had a pizza crust made from fresh milled flour, you just have no idea what you're missing. How is Florida? That's got to be a trick question. Just kidding. Racism and fascism are like herpes in that they can lie somewhat dormant for a while, then it flares up again under the right conditions. Ooh, neat analogy. I like that. Kelly got there to my intended interpretation at the end about JFK. Okay, good. Thank you. I will never see a democratic socialist government in my lifetime. Very sad. We got to work to make things better, though. Like planting a tree you'll never enjoy the shade of, but your grandchildren will. Orwell said they'd come wrapped in the American flag and carrying the Bible. I think it was Orwell. That I can see. It's funny, like when they talk about like when they quote Orwell or Martin Luther King, as though they would endorse whatever they're saying. Like Orwell would not. Orwell, Martin Luther King Jr., and George Carlin. Those three, they love to quote those three as though those three would not recoil at Donald Trump. It does seem daunting. It did say that he was dumb and wrong, at least. If he did say that, he was dumb and wrong, at least. I urge everybody to watch the YouTube videos of other people saying what Trump says word for word. It sounds completely insane. This is how Trump has mesmerized people like Adolf did. Brett, I did a couple of videos where I would take Donald Trump, big segments of Donald Trump speaking and use an AI to put it in Morgan Freeman voice. And I thought it was hilarious. But some people were offended, so I stopped doing it. The Churchill quote never... There's a lot of apocryphal quotes. Some of them are my favorite quotes. My favorite fake quote, misattributed quote, is the fake Mark Twain quote, because I think it's still a good quote. The fake Mark Twain quote. It's easier to fool someone than to convince somebody that they have been fooled. Because that sounds like something Mark Twain would say, but there's no evidence he ever said that. And it also fits MAGA. I also like Toni Morrison's quote on that. Racism is a mental illness. If someone has to be on their knees for you to feel tall, that's pathetic. Ooh. Toni Morrison is more what I mean. Just, man. Anyway, that's a good quote. Made me think. What a quote. I really believe decades from now, scientists will talk about this like they talk about Adolf. Yeah, there's not a way where history looks back at this and talks about how America was actually made great again by Donald Trump. They don't have any grasp of reality, and they are so far removed from reality that people that are in reality to them are outside of reality. It's not like they're just in a bubble. They're in a bubble that is on a different planet. And then they think that they're on Earth 1. Actually, I think real Earth is Earth 2, but I'm not sure. Our Earth, if I remember right, our Earth is Earth 2, not Earth 1, but I may be wrong on that. I'm not a DC comet file. I know she wasn't obsessed with having her words picked over, but her interviews and writing are actually so good. Smart people make you think. Donald Trump has never made me think. Elon Musk has never made me think. I've never heard either one of them say something that goes, wow, I need to think about that. You know, there's like, I got to hear Maya Angelou speak, and I thought about what she said for like 3 days. I got to hear Barack Obama speak long before he was ever Barack Obama. I mean, he was still Barack Obama, but nobody who knew who he was. When I was at the University of Minnesota in 1994, Barack Obama came, and he was, like the first president of the Harvard Law Review. And he was a community organizer. That's how they introduced him. And he spoke, and this was right in the middle of the savings and loan scandal. And there was stuff there. It was kind of like with the 2008 thing, where there was a bunch of stuff that was just brazenly wrong, but not illegal. And so people weren't going to jail that really deserved to go to jail. And so I was like asking him, like, how can that be? Why won't these people be punished? And he said, you have to understand the difference between rich people and poor people. Rich people make the things poor people do illegal because they tend to be the victims of those wrong things that poor people do. Rich people don't make the things that rich people do illegal because they affect the things they affect the poor people. Something like that. I don't think that's verbatim, but it's close. And I've thought about that for 32 years now. That helped shape so much of my philosophy of how government works and how it shouldn't be. Like, this is one of the things we really need to fix in government. We need a government that makes the things rich people do wrong. The wrong things rich people do wrong. If we had done that in 1994, 2008 wouldn't have happened. And so there was another guy that, when I was in high school, interviewed this guy that was helping Liberia write its constitution. I won't go into it. And he asked me, if you were to write a constitution, he was helping them write their constitution. Just think about what that means. Anyway, he asked me, if you were to write a constitution, would it look just like the American Constitution? Would there be anything different? How would it look? And I've thought about that. That conversation was literally 43 years ago, and I still think about that all the time. I think that maybe not enough people really think about what is the role of government, like what should government do, and then figure out how to do it. That's why when I say this I talk about having an honest conversation, this is what I mean. Like, how can we actually strive to be better as a country? And what does that mean? What goals should we have? What are our national aspirations? How can we improve as a country? Like, how can we get rid of the racist dredges that still exist? I'm not saying everybody's a racist or you should feel guilty for being white or whatever, but you should acknowledge that we still have systemic racism just entrenched through every aspect of society. And instead of just pretending it's gone away and making it illegal to try to solve, as though that solves it, we need to acknowledge this. What can we do? Instead of blaming black people for being pilots. Anyway, I wish more people would think. That's what I hope to do with my show, with this stream, is to at least help people think, whether you're a MAGA, whether you're on the left. Anyway, is he talking to TikTok chat people over there, are like teens with soup for brains? I'm actually, I don't stream to TikTok. Don't have enough people. are enough followers there. Nick Piper's comment was probably the average MAGA talking point. What did Piper say? Did I? I think I missed Piper's. I don't know what he said. Maggots are all kind of the same. If you listen to call-in shows, it always boils down to anti-trans and anti-abortion stuff. Yeah, there's like TDS, anti-trans, but Biden, open borders. It's just a series of dumb talking points that don't mean anything, don't say anything, don't do anything. Anyway, oh, I'm about 30 minutes behind again. Man, sorry. That's the wine, it's all vibes. I was with the 9th Infantry Division in 1968 in PTSD, and I can still hear heavy combat some nights before bed. How evil for their crap to follow me home. I'm Gen X too, and I'm pissed. MAGAs all use the same hive mind talking points. People forget Trump was die-hard Democrat, but he was not a die-hard Democrat. People forget it because it never was true. Like, he might have donated to Clinton, but like, he donated to Kamala Harris too. He's always been a racist. He's always been a fascist. His first wife said that she only saw him ever have one book, read one book. He kept it on the side of his bed, and it was the Hitler's book of Hitler's speeches. So when he says things like poisoning the blood of our country, he's not saying that because he doesn't know Hitler said it. He's saying that because he knows Hitler did say it. Boomers are 1965 on back, right? Yeah, boomers went up through 60, either 64 or 65, and then Gen X started. So there's what we call Generation Jones, which is like 1964 to 1967, or cuspers, sort of the overlapping part. When technically I might be part of that. I was trying to I considered Kamala Harris Gen X, even though she's not technically Gen X. But if you look at her pictures in high school, she's Molly. I got the Molly Ringwald Breakfast Club look. They hate free speech. They took Kimmel off the air. Yes, they're trying to buy up all the networks. Like, they own CBS, they own Fox News, they own CNN now. They're trying to force ABC off the air if they don't comply. Defunding NPR. Yeah, but the free speech purists, when actual government actually doing censorship. Smith-Mundt Modernization Act 2012 allows the State Department and Broadcasting Board of Governors to produce and determine material to the unsuspecting American people. Ooh. Originally prohibited when first signed by President Harry Truman. Yeah. Shut up. Okay. No Democratic leader has said that, but the Republican leaders say horrendous shit about anybody who disagrees with them. It's disgusting, and you can't expect the people to hold themselves to the standards. 1953 Ajax operation overthrew a democratically elected government in Iran and replaced them with dictatorship under the Shah. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. The actual people I know that live there and vote there actually voted for that and really want it and really like it. Did anybody see the Mitch McConnell proof of life photo? Jesus, I have never seen better AI slap. Let me see if I can. Is this the one? Hopefully this is the one. Oh. That's not the one. Sorry. Oh well. I made an image. Oh, now how do I get rid of it here? This is what okay. That's not the one. I made a joke about Mitch McConnell filibustering his own death too, but I made a video or a little image where I replaced Mitch McConnell with Touche the turtle, and said, "How can anybody, like think this isn't that this is a Iran-Contra debacle under Reagan and Bush?" I don't know what. So what are you driving at here, Avigor? We certainly helped create the situation in Iran that we are allegedly fighting against. If that's what we're still fighting ICE in Chicago. The hunger strike continues, to my knowledge. Status Co is still documenting. And they murdered somebody else today in Maine or something. New ICE murder. Hello from Germany. I am Friedrich. Hi, Friedrich. Yes, it has level 5 decision-making clearance in the Pentagon. It has since springtime. Platner, meaning seeing stones taken from the Lord of the Rings trilogy project, from Maven from the Hebrew Mevin, meaning guru, or I have no idea what that means. YouTube let back on banned people who did actual calls for violence the moment Trump got elected. But if you say that Trump is a Nazi, then you basically, told people to go out and murder him or something. Like, I can disagree with Donald Trump without actually thinking he deserves to be murdered. But Donald Trump was able to criticize the president. You're just not allowed to criticize Donald Trump when he's the president. All Americans law enforcement began to receive occupation policing tactics courtesy of the IDF. All right. Lately, any LLM like Grok, Chat, GPT, Claude, Gemini, they have been lying a lot lately. They euphemistically call it hallucinating, but it's lying. Yeah. They don't really think on those. You have to push back and say, this isn't true. And then they'll be like, oh, whoops. People underestimate the power of white men speaking deliberately and consistently against actual racism. You're doing the Lord's work. Thank you, Winston. And I always say this, I'm not gay, but I will speak against homophobia. I'm not trans, but I will speak against transphobia. I am not a minority, but I will speak against racism. I am not a woman, but I will speak against sexism. Because they're wrong. It has nothing to do with what I am. It's what they are. And they are, the same as me, except for, outward things. What seemed like veiled racism? Something somebody said. Anyway. Smacks of what? I don't know what did I miss? Hey, how's it going? I was wondering, what's your take on the war involving Iran? That it's completely unnecessary. That Donald Trump wanted it to distract from the Epstein files. That's driving worldwide inflation. Could lead to a worldwide recession. And that Donald Trump is basically started something that he can never finish. It's just going to get worse before it gets better. Ken Paxton is the only person who got caught for voter fraud in Texas. He is registered to vote at an address where he does not live. Yes, and he has actually prosecuted prosecute people for doing exactly what he is doing. Ken Paxton needs to prosecute himself. Why you prosecuting yourself? He's a little behind because there was a troll wave. Yeah, that would have condemned MAGA, all three of them. Trump's only skill is pooping his pants in front of world leaders. I always say he's a poop paradox because the poop never stops coming out of his mouth and never stops coming out of his butt, and he's never any less full of poop. Have you ever heard of the Melania speech that was literally word for word of what Michelle Obama said? Yes. I love the video on YouTube that plays it simultaneously, even the pause between sentences. I've never seen that, but it's worth seeing, I'm sure. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance picks his nose and rubs boogers on fancy furniture. Look up, if you've never seen it, YouTube Ted Cruz booger. He's in a debate. He's got a booger on his lips, and it's just sitting there hanging, and then he just kind of goes up there and licks it off. It's a big, disgusting looking booger too. That's not all he rubs on fancy furniture. Ooh, oh, Brett with the, oh my goodness, 911. I'd like to report a murder. YouTube snagged your comment, but I'll repost it. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance picks his nose and rubs fancy boogers on furniture. Elon Musk wants people to go to Mars and save the human race. It's like when people say Elon Musk is a genius, this is why I don't think he can be a genius. He thinks that like Stranger in a Strange Land is based on a true story or whatever. I wonder how, I bet, you know, I've thought about this before because I think it would be funny. I want to start a rumor that they found oil on Mars and that we should go up and colonize Mars to get the oil. Just to see how many MAGAs like buy into that. I bet a lot of MAGAs would just jump down that hole. Like they'd just be like, they found oil on Mars. He should be the first one. Mars cannot be colonized. Elon is a moron. The core does not. Like, and colonizing a planet is not exactly like terraforming a planet. Like, people do not understand that what a process that is. It took the Earth like millions of years to terraform. Does this guy have a life? No, I'm dead. J.S. Mill and Jeremy Bentham, whoever they are. Because of an hour every couple of days, are you really going there because you came here? Just saying. Yeah, DEI is actually a very positive thing, and it has been completely misused, misunderstood. The idea that DEI is, like, when you hear people talk about DEI and quotas, you know they haven't got any clue what they're talking about. We could use magnetic fields on satellites to deflect radiation from the sun, but the Earth is the best candidate for terraforming. You could educate yourself and understand that Charlie Kirk was commenting about how toxic and racist DEI is. Technically, when he was shot, he was talking about how toxic or how transphobic people are, how transgender people are murderers. I doubt you're trying to encourage people to think if you think that black people are the victims in the systemic racism that we see in 2020. They are. They are. I mean, like, that is how we know statistically black people have less wealth. Black people are more likely to be charged for the same for crimes that are that white people do the same rate of. Black people are more likely to have to plead guilty. Black people are more likely to be convicted if they go to a jury. Black people get longer sentences for doing the same crimes. Black people are more likely to have to drop out of college because they can't afford to pay for it. Black people are more likely to be stopped and frisked. Every aspect of society, black people are less likely to own their own homes. One in 7 black men end up going to jail. If you think that black people are like the ones benefiting from systemic racism, then you are a racist who just believes racist stuff that you heard. That's just an obdurately ignorant thing to say. USA is the greatest country in the world, whatever that means. Thinking that black people have systemic oppressions in 2020. Yeah, they don't, Chunk. By the way, you're dead, aren't you? This is an LGBTQ supported live. People forget that Trump was blah, 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 blah. People forget this thing that I just completely made up. Is that I hated Donald Trump long before he ever got political. Most people did. Everybody in New York couldn't stand him before he got political. This idea that everybody loved Donald Trump before he became political is just nonsense. Chuck, read a book. Is that a typo of a Biden thing? Trump is the bottom of the billionaire barrel. His followers are uneducated. I didn't actually hate Donald Trump. I just thought he was a con artist. I didn't hate him because I wasn't that personally vested in him. But I watched an episode of The Apprentice, and how they start off this thing where they talk about how he's like this great business guy that only bankrupted casinos. They don't mention that he bankrupted casinos and stuff. But what I noticed is they introduced the challenge, and he tells everybody what the challenge is and what the strategy is, and then they go out and they do it, and they completely ignore his advice, and then the winners win because they didn't pay any attention to what his advice was. And then they came back, and at the end of the show, he's in the boardroom, and he talks about how his advice is why they won, even though it had nothing to do with it. I even rewound it to make sure, I was like, and then I was just like, this show isn't worth watching. This is he's just there's look up the newspaper, just Google newspaper article where Donald Trump says that he stopped a mugging or something. It's just he made up stuff that he fed the media. He made himself to be this thing he never was, and this idea that people loved him before he became a politician. The left never gave a crap about Donald Trump. We did not give him as much thought as the last fart to leave our butts. Please don't come in here telling us about your bedroom escapades. An ICE agent was arrested by Texas Rangers for murder in Texas. That is interesting. Wonder how Greg Abbott's going to respond to that. I'm gonna look that up. That's amazing, especially in it really is. Most Americans are afraid of what they can't understand. That's why MAGAs are afraid of everything. Thank you for that setup. Please shout out my dad for his birthday, Mr. Todd Lerfondler. Your dad is a pedo. Not just oil, but gold and cobalt. Drill, baby, drill. Anyway, Sarah Palin came up with that, not Donald Trump. It's amazing how many people do not have anything better to do than to rip each other apart. Of course, lying, that is a thing for you. The problem is we research. Okay, what did I lie about? And what research shows I lied? I love it when MAGAs come on here and they just talk about how I lied. And they never, ever actually say, I've like thousands of comments, literally thousands, and hundreds where I've been told I lied. Not once have I been told what a lie was. Just say only real men go to Mars. And they won't have to lift their pickup trucks no more. They can take the cyber trucks look like they should be on Mars. No, I have a DEI. No, DEI is trash, and I have a doctorate in business. So what? That's like when people DEI has nothing to do with business. Musk believes in most Americans are ignorant. Mars will never be colonized for so many reasons, but most Americans are clueless about Mars. I have had people, by the way, on the show who are experts in DEI. Being an expert in business is like nothing. DEI is barely even business adjacent. MAGA most believe in Elon is an inventor. Yes, I have so many people that think that he's a rocket scientist or like he's an engineer. I mean, he is a genius when it comes to grifting. He managed to take $38 billion from the government and turn it into $1 trillion plus and convince you that the people that are taking all of your money are the people that, like the children who get food because they're drinking Pepsi for free. Invent poop. Exactly. I hated Trump when I heard how he beat up his first wife. Yeah, I've come to hate Trump for a ton of other things, but back before he started running for office, I gave him no thought. Against all reason, America is not the greatest country on earth. Yeah. What is it? Like, it's just such a... Did you remember the show Newsroom? There was a great opening scene to that where he runs down why America is not the greatest country on earth. It's just a thing we like to say. When I was in the Air Force in 1989, I guess it would have been 1989, I was stationed in Italy. Had a friend named Pino. Pino was interesting because his dad ran that part of Italy's mafia. So he was extremely rich. And his dad wanted him to stay out of the mob business. So his dad gave him his own club and stuff. We'd always go out to dinner and he'd always be paying. I'd be like, Pino, let me pay this one time. He'd say, no, I got it. And then one time I tried to sneak pay when he went to the bathroom and I came back and he caught me. He's like, Kelly, I'm rich and you're not. And I said, well, now that you put it that way. So anyway, we were out with Pino and he asked me one time, he said, Kelly, can you answer me a question? I was like, what's that? And he said, why do Americans think that they're the only ones that are allowed to love their country? And I thought about that and I was like, Pino, I do not know. And that's one of those things, it's like people act like only Americans can be patriots. And you've got Donald Trump acting like every other country has to put America first. Not just Americans, England has to put America first. He does that to all his spouses. I wonder how many MAGAs know that his first wife actually testified under oath that he raped her while they were married. Why people voted for Trump? No, I'm not why people voted for Trump. I deleted your message. Does that frustrate you? Actually, Brett made no moral compass for infidelity, but to hear that she was bothered by Epstein gives her some moral clout. Marla had no moral compass for infidelity. Okay. I didn't know that she said anything about Epstein. Remember, like, this was one of those things where, like, he, in the deposition for the E. Jean Carroll trial, and they showed a picture of her, and he thought it was Marla. He's like, she's not even my type. And then they showed him the picture, and they said, do you know who this was? And he said, that he thought it was Marla. So apparently he thought that E. Jean Carroll at that time looked like the woman that he married, but she's not his type. And then he tells the lawyer that she's dog and he wouldn't even assault her. And DEI is causing less men to be admitted to college. No, it's not. Don't believe in education anyways. It's part of the great dumbing down of America. Just like, okay, if you have, let's say you have 100 people applying for a job, right? Forget about college because that's a whole different thing. 100 people are applying for college. And then, men get 95 of them and women get the other 5. And then you find out, because you're not actually trying to recruit any women. You're not even trying to hire women. And you say, maybe there's some qualified women out there. And so then you go out and you recruit women. And so now you have 100 women apply and you have 100 men apply, and you hire the 100 most qualified people. And so 50 of those people are women and 50 of those people are men. You would look at that and you would say those 45 men didn't get hired because they hired women. And that somehow that is a tragedy against the men. Including other people, which is what the inclusion means, does not mean excluding the original people. Fighting racism is not racism. Never confuse education with intelligence. You can have a PhD and still be an idiot. Richard Feynman. Yes, and that's a good book. Did you ever read his book? It's a fantastic book. But people use that sometimes to dismiss being an uneducated idiot. Like, you can be both uneducated and an idiot, like Donald Trump. Moral aptitude is not synonymous with intelligence. True. You can be very smart and quite evil, or you can be an idiot and evil, like Donald Trump. Look up the Human Freedoms Index, co-published by the Cato and Fraser Institutes. Even using 2023 figures, America's placed 15th. Yes, and we're falling really fast. And you look at the Gini Index, which is, the economic disparity, and we're like way last of all the industrialized countries. Check online. 1995, soon after Trump's Mar-a-Lago club opened, Maples widely shared misgivings with staff. She told employees that something about Epstein felt wrong and off. Wow. And this is one thing that bothers me about the whole, Donald Trump and Epstein hated each other. They hated each other maybe after they had their falling out. But while Epstein was running his child rape trafficking ring, Donald Trump was his bestie. That's when they were hanging out, while Epstein was like doing his pay to rape kids thing. It makes sense that Donald would say she was a dog trying to cover up that it's not about the act, it's about the domination, which says more about him. He feels insecure and small. Nothing he does is ever going to make his hands get any bigger. I said anti-DEI policies are causing less men. Anti-DE policies are causing less men. I did not know that. I don't know what that means, but I see what you're saying. I stand corrected. All right, so we're caught up now on comments. I missed some from earlier, but we've been going for 3.5 hours. So I think that's good enough for today. I tried again. I did. You have to give me credit for trying, right? I really, really tried to have an honest conversation with the Republican and still, or with the MAGA. I've had honest conversations with Republicans that I disagreed with. Had Joe Walsh on the show one time. We had a really good, honest conversation. So it is possible to have one with the Republican. It's just not possible to have one with the MAGA. At least not yet. But I'll keep trying. And I'll see you here tomorrow.